Check. Okay, good. Mic's working. All right, camera is fixed. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we just witnessed Josh Giddey's best game as a Chicago Bull tonight. And I think if there's anything to move the needle, especially for me, it's this type of performance. So this is talk about proving me wrong, right? This proved me wrong tonight, right? Josh Giddey proved me wrong tonight. Okay, everyone thinks that I'm the hater, right? But this is me saying that, hey, this is Giddey proving me wrong tonight. So big shout outs to him. Immediately I'm just pulling up the standings. I'm keeping an eye on a couple of games right now. Bulls have now won 2 games in Florida, which is, I should have expected it, honestly, because the Bulls record on the road is just significantly better than at home for whatever reason this year. But the Bulls pulled out honestly, I don't even know what to call this, like a thriller? Would you call this one a thriller? This was a very fun game, though, I won't lie. It was awful in the first half. The Bulls couldn't score crap in the first half. My God, I was losing my mind. But at the end of the day, I've been pretty consistent with this throughout the season, which is that the Bulls, no matter what, even when they've struggled for not every game, but through most of the season, I think that they've shown the identity that they need to keep, stay at a consistent output with throughout the rough moments, right? That's kind of what is always important to watch for when it comes to this sort of stuff, is because even when the 3 ball isn't going down, when guys are missing some shots they should usually make, and the defense isn't exactly the best, especially in that first quarter where Duncan Robinson was just running everywhere around us. This was good to see the Bulls stick with it, okay? Like, you got to still stick with trying to get out in transition as much as possible. You got to still try to attack the paint in the half court, but then kick it out if you need to, right? But then also, even though the 3-point shot did not go down tonight, okay, it's these sort of moments where even if you're not making your threes, the fact that you're still taking 40 and you only shoot 26%, you make 11, right? That's why you win this game. That's the difference. Because, in previous years, we wouldn't shoot that many threes if we're struggling that bad from 3-point range, and you'd probably lose this game by about the same margin. But you shooting these threes still, even when it wasn't going down, and then you still hitting those threes at the end of the game, specifically with Giddey hitting that big one, right? Just because it wasn't going down 46 minutes ago does not mean that Giddey should not have taken that shot, right? And he took the shot. That's important, okay? That's why you win this game. And I'm happy to see this from this Bulls squad. The offensive overall, efficiency tonight was pretty poor. But you stuck with your identity, and that's the biggest thing I can ask for in these sort of situations, and it got you the win today. And I'm really proud of these guys, because I always get really nervous, especially under a Billy Donovan run team, where when things go bad, it kind of just resorts back to ISO ball, and or I guess more importantly, it's you slow down the tempo. ISO ball in certain situations is obviously the correct decision, but slowing down the tempo is the incorrect decision in these sort of moments. But tonight, though, even when it was going bad, you decided to still push the tempo and still play to your identity. And Josh Giddey was a humongous part of that tonight. So, again, for all the people that just are filing into the chat right now, this is the prove me wrong game tonight, okay? This is a prove me wrong. Josh Giddey proved me wrong tonight, okay? I'm here to say it. Giddey showed me that what I have been saying that he can't do all season long. He showed it to me tonight. It's one game, but I'm saying here right now, Giddey proved me wrong tonight for this game specifically. So again, if you think I'm a hater, I'm not a hater. I want him to prove me wrong. He proved me wrong tonight. We'll talk about, down the road here in terms of consistency, but this is the prove me wrong game tonight from Josh Giddey, right? And major props to him. This is great to see if you're a Bulls fan right now. Now, it's obviously, just as we saw with Kobe White last game, where he put up 44, it's like, well, can he go and kind of replicate this sort of performance, not put up 44, but still score in similar ways and score efficiently, right? And we saw Kobe have some struggles. He came alive at the end, but he didn't hit a 3 tonight, right? So with Giddey, right, it's awesome performance tonight, and as as always with all the young players, it's like, where's the consistency next, right? Are you going to go out and do, not a triple-double, obviously, but score in the same way that you did tonight? So it's always going to be this when it comes to a young team. Until there's anybody that's especially proven, we're going to have to keep saying this, but this is a very good sign, because I've been saying that all season long. I don't think Giddey can do something like this. And this was, in my opinion, by far, and people will disagree with me on this, but this to me is by far Giddey's best game as a Bull. Like, by far. Both ends of the floor. The ability to make the shots off the dribble without any assistance, right? Not getting set up for shots. Not always relying on the transition offense to get you your buckets, but instead being smart and taking your timings of when to attack a mismatch, right? That's what we need to see. And, we saw it earlier in the game where Giddey was getting blocked by Kel'el Ware constantly, but he adjusted. That's what we need, right? If you see it, it's like, okay, well, if Kel'el Ware's back there, don't go to the rim, okay? But if it's just Tyler Hero back there, then go, attack, right? And that's what Giddey did tonight. That's what we gotta keep seeing, but he proved me wrong tonight. So major props to him. Let's keep this going, because now I'm starting to think, okay, maybe there is a chance. Maybe there is a chance here with Giddey that you can go ahead and show to me you're the offensive engine for this team moving forward. I'm still doubting it overall, but you show me that there's a possibility tonight, and I did not think that for this entire season until tonight. So major props to Giddey for being obviously the MVP tonight. I want to shout out Tre Jones as well, because I think Tre Jones was humongous down the stretch. He is honestly turning into a very, very, very nice guard right now under this Bull system. He really honestly wasn't, like, he was just kind of there in the first like 3 quarters. Like, he wasn't really doing too much. And I understand that he was tasked with guarding Hero, which he did a pretty honestly good job tonight of guarding Hero overall. But he all of a sudden looks like he might be one of those guys where it's, I don't want to say TJ McConnell-esque. That doesn't sound really that's not like a great comparison, honestly, because I think they're a little bit different. But it kind of just reminds me of like a smaller guard who rebounds a little bit better than he should. And defensively, even though he is undersized, like, he still finds a way to make some sort of impact, even though he is undersized. And he's going out and finding these timings in transition to when to take the shots, but he's also one of the best right now on the team in terms of pushing tempo. He's slid into the starting lineup, and it's a lot of pressure on him, honestly, to just kind of slide into the starting lineup and be like the starting shooting guard in a sense. And he's done a phenomenal job. This has been very, very nice to see from Tre Jones. So it's definitely rising his stock, but Bulls have to make a decision this upcoming free agency about him. But this is awesome to see from him. I'm hoping that and this is just kind of, maybe it's like the IO effect as well with Tre. Like, I think Tre Jones has been pretty decent off the bench overall. But I would hope that he still has like similar levels of impact when he goes to the bench, because obviously he's gonna be a bench player, right? And so if he can do that and like go to the bench, like, awesome. I'm just a little bit worried it's gonna be like the IO effect, where it's like IO's numbers in the starting lineup look incredible, or not incredible, but just a lot better. But then for some reason this year, IO just looked really poor off the bench. Like, his numbers look really bad. Not saying Tre Jones is going to do that, but I'm just hoping that, like, we don't see like the impact like fall off. But it seems like he might be the guy that can be able to do such a thing. He also, for whatever reason, and this is also a probably horrible comparison, but when I watch him, and it's probably because Stacey King said there's 5 of them out there, but like, honestly, he reminds me a little bit of Javonte Green, just with the way that he's able to track down rebounds and just push tempo, like, and just go out and be a one-man fast break. He doesn't have the athleticism, obviously, as Javonte, but it's kind of similar in a sense. So major shout out to him, because I think he was a very, very big key factor down the stretch of that game, because that without him, the Bulls don't win this one, honestly, because that steal he had when the pass was thrown out of Bio was huge. Him guarding Tyler Hero all night was honestly, like, Hero eventually got his points. Like, I knew it was going to happen at some point, but he really did a good job on Hero for most of the night. And it comes up huge in these sort of moments where it's like you have this extra guy to make those perimeter plays, especially with the Bulls in a 2-3 zone, because he was being a very key factor in that 2-3 zone. And obviously, knowing the Bulls lack of perimeter defense, him being out there is huge in a 2-3 set. So, major shout out to Trey Jones tonight, because he honestly just was like, he was just kind of being a defender for most of the game, and then he came alive in that fourth quarter. So what a humongous lift that he gave. He gave to the Bulls tonight. I just want to also say this. Again, I'm going to give Billy credit overall for keeping the identity throughout the entire game, even with all the struggles. I will say one negative thing. I think Billy should have just let Buzelis out there to close the game. He took Buzelis out after he had that turnover with about 3 minutes left to go, or it was just under 3 minutes. That to me was the incorrect decision, and I understand Buzelis did mess up there, but I don't really think Kevin Huerter needed to be out there at all. Kevin Huerter got 30 minutes tonight. Now Buzelis got his typical 30, or his 30 that I've been wanting from Billy specifically every night, and I understand Buzelis missed his last 5 or whatever it was, but at least in my opinion, that needs to be Buzelis out there and getting the experience, because that to me for Billy is a little bit just a bad decision overall, just for the future. I understand they're trying to win the game, but in my opinion, Huerter wasn't really doing much in terms of offense tonight, so I don't really understand it. I understand that Buzelis started to cool off, but if anything, I want the rebounding out there. Bulls got the win anyway, so I shouldn't really be complaining too hard about it, but we are still kind of watching that as if Buzelis does get his time in late games as he should. And I don't think he got it tonight, which he should have, at least in my opinion. So, yeah, not exactly happy about that. But other than that, though, I think there's a lot of good things to take away from this game. I don't know what it is about the Bulls this year on the road, but they just happen to win these games, which I'm just like, wow, they really shouldn't win this one. But cool, I guess. Magic are obviously sucking, but did they win tonight? Yeah, they did. They won against the Milwaukee Bucks tonight in Milwaukee with Giannis and Lillard both playing. But the Heat obviously are trying to stay in their spot in the play-in, and they lose this one for whatever reason. So don't quite get it. Hero didn't have that good of a game, and Bam missed some shots he probably should have made. So odd decisions, odd play from certain teams, but I guess that's what happens when you get overlooked as a team. So very odd overall. Appreciate y'all checking in on the stream tonight. If you have not already hit the like button on the stream, please do. Helps me out a lot. Nice Bulls win tonight, honestly. We are officially at this point, because Brooklyn did lose. I don't think Philly or Brooklyn are going to catch us, so it's just all right, just go play your heart out. San Antonio needs to keep winning, so that's important. I think now the Bulls, they're 1 game behind, I think. Actually, they might be tied in the win column with San Antonio. Yeah, that's concerning. But San Antonio is 3 games ahead in the loss column. So San Antonio does not play tonight, but I'm gonna guess they play tomorrow. That's not a winnable game. Okay, cool. So we'll see, man. Hopefully the Bulls don't suddenly ruin their spot in the tank standings, but hopefully it all works out. I feel like that game was nearly exactly as I predicted. I watched the halftime thing with Hayes and said I figured it would be a Bulls comeback late and Wiggins be the threat holding Heat in. Kobe would come stronger in the fourth as always. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I guess that's just what it just be Kobe. It has been more of a trend recently where it's if he does struggle in a game, this is a struggle tonight. He for some reason figures sort of kind of figures it out late in the game. It may be too late, right? But I do think that for some reason he finally starts to get it going a little bit, even if he misses 9 threes. So yeah, he got it going tonight. Finally, it took a while, but Kobe figured it out eventually, which was good to see. So happy at one thing that was different from Billy tonight. Often he switches from the giddy pace offense to Kobe in the third early, but tonight held off till midway fourth, and that helped. I honestly think that I don't know if that's necessarily all Billy. I'm gonna give Billy the credit. I think that is something that Billy deserves credit for, but I honestly think it's also just it's a mindset between those two guys, and the rest of the team. Continue to push tempo. Fourth quarter, last 5 minutes, slow it down. The game just slows down in general. But if you can push tempo for 43 minutes, if you can, then yeah, I am happy that stayed consistent, even when they were struggling. All right, even when the Bulls were really struggling early on, when they were down by 17. It was no, we gotta push tempo stuff. Keep pushing tempo. Keep pushing it. And eventually it worked out, right? Eventually you started to get your fast break points. Eventually some of the threes went down. That's what we got. That's what we got to do. That's the entire point of the tempo offense, is just keep pushing tempo, because it's eventually going to try to wear down the other team, and it did that tonight, and I'm really happy it did. I don't think you're a hater, just slow to warm to some elements of Giddey and wanting to watch the Evans yourself. Well, here's the thing, okay? Like, the part of the element of Giddey, okay? Josh Giddey, I mean, has been just a bad overall finisher at the rim in his entire career. Like, that's an element of Josh Giddey coming into the season, right? And so far, even with his more recent better play, it's still pretty bad at the rim for him. But in the last, like, since the trade deadline, he's been, like, in the upper 70th percentile of being a finisher at the rim. Like, for reference, if you wanted to know, like, it's typically for Josh Giddey, he's around 30th percentile, which is an overall finisher in the league, okay? So that to me is one of the biggest things. Like, I don't think it's about me wanting to warm up to Giddey's elements of what he brings, okay? That's an element of Giddey's game that's been stuck with him for most of his career. And I'm like, well, okay, well, you got to show me that this is not going to continue being an issue, because if this is going to be an issue, I don't have faith in you. But since the trade deadline, it's been different, right? Giddey's been a much better finisher at the rim. He's done a much better job at being much smarter of when to take the timings to actually go to the basket and not take the timings when there's a shot blocker there. But also the biggest thing to me, and he hit a couple of these tonight, but the biggest thing to me is just that he got rid of that floater, bro. Like, if you can not rely on that floater as much, it goes a long way, because that's going to increase the overall percentage of your shots go at the basket. Relying on that floater is just a little bit too much, like, inconsistency, especially from him. And he tends to do those floaters where it's like he's running off on, you know, he's kind of like off balance and on the side of the backboard and like tries to throw it up there. It's like, get rid of that, and now all of a sudden you're looking a lot better as terms of a finisher, which is what we were all hoping for, being 6'8", right? It's you use your size to finish. So I think that's honestly the biggest thing for me. That's like, okay, now you're showing me that all this your overall, let's say 3.5 years of bad finisher in the league, okay, one of the like bottom, like we're talking like 30th percentile or worse in the league, okay, now all of a sudden you're looking like one of the better finishers in the league. Not, you know, not star level, but you're looking at being an upper half finisher in the league. That's my biggest thing now. I'm like, okay, that's different, that's new. So, you know, he's worked on clearly something. It honestly seems to be just IQ, which is just like, okay, why didn't we see this earlier? But maybe he did get stronger. Maybe he was able to figure out something with his layup package that allows him to get an edge. Like, that's obviously great. You know, it's going to take a while for me to be fully convinced that we're going to see this consistently, but this is obviously a great sign. I would much rather see this than obviously not figure it out, you know, the entire season, and especially before you head into a restricted free agency. So this is good. This is really good from Giddey. The three-point shot, I mean, he didn't really shoot great for the last 2 games, but he hit 3 of 4 tonight. And obviously hit the biggest one down the stretch. The biggest thing for me, though, tonight was the fact that he hit a three-point shot that was off the dribble, which he still isn't really good at doing that in general, but that's a very good sign. So you can continue doing that, then you're looking like a much better overall ball, you know, handler and overall option on offense. So that to me is like my biggest things. I don't know if it's necessarily about me warming up to Josh Giddey and what he brings. It's about, can Josh Giddey prove to me these areas of weakness aren't weaknesses? And he's done that since February, so props to him. The Mount moves for Giddey in the third quarter in a series, highlight reel stuff. I actually think that it was on, like, I don't know what necessarily about highlight reels, but it looked really just smart. Like, that's the biggest thing with Giddey. I was like, wow, that's a smart decision there. Like, that's key. So if you can do that, like, yeah, then you know, if that's part of your highlight package, I guess. But, you know, IQ plays show up. That's huge. Julian dunks Giddey's hate, and here, okay, bro, again, I'm not a hater. I'm just being honest about him, right? Like, again, everything I've said is just honest truth, right? So go and prove to me that this is not going to be a weakness, and he's done that so far, right? Billy made the right calls for rare occasions tonight. I think Billy, for the most part, made the right calls. Again, I don't agree with the Buzelis decision at the end of the game, but I think for the most part with the rotations, I mean, Terry wasn't really giving you much. Neither was Phillips. That's fine. I also like the fact that he did kind of shorten up like not playing THT or whatever, like, or not playing THT for much. That's good. Putting out Trey Jones as much as possible is a great sign. Maybe he didn't trust him as much earlier on because, like, and a lot of guys to play, but playing Trey Jones, even when he wasn't really doing too much, was a good decision as well. Just to, make sure he's stuck on Tyler Hero consistently, and just being a pest. So I do think Billy, for most of the game, was making the right decisions. I think the 2-3 zone was also a good call. Miami clearly just was not ready to face that 2-3 zone. Bam looks lost, bro. I mean, there are times with Bam that I'm just like, bro, like, I've seen you be better than this. And he just, for some reason, was making weird decisions tonight. But Bam, obviously, is a key factor in trying to break his zone, and he just wasn't able to effectively do it. So, yeah, and then I do think that the zone did kind of take Duncan Robinson out of the play a little bit, because Duncan Robinson was killing us in that first half. And then the 2-3 zone kind of nullified the down screens and was kind of just like, okay, well, we know where you like to go anyway, so we'll just kind of keep a guy here and try to figure it out from there. And it worked out. So good job, honestly, by Billy. So yeah, I don't like the late game pull of Buzelis, and I think that was unnecessary, at least in my opinion. And I wasn't really impressed by Herder tonight, honestly. But I really think that Buzelis, no matter what, just needs the experience down the stretch of a game. I would much rather him just be out there, and we, if we happen to lose from a mistake from him, okay, so be it. Like, it's not that end of the world. But they won anyway, so I can't be too critical of it at the end of the day. Yeah, probably for the Bulls to lose for a good pick. Yeah, I think we should all just give up on that now officially, because Brooklyn lost tonight when they should have won. Philly looks like crap. It's just the only thing that we have to keep track of is just the San Antonio pick, and we'll see. Kobe White must stay. We'll see, man. We'll see. That plus minus negative relative to the rest of the team is big. Yeah, I mean, this is incredible to look at. Again, I think this guy's, his plus minus is only 14, which I don't know if that's really effective of showing how good Trey Jones was tonight. But yeah, I mean, Giddey clearly was by far the best player tonight, and it shows up in the plus minus. But I mean, you could just tell tonight, it was just like, no, this was important to watch. Giddey go and just be constant transition mode, and that was awesome, because you gotta attack Miami before they set up their defense, and the Bulls did that tonight. Bulls at risk of winning in matchups at this point to get completely trashed against something like Boston or Cavs. I am definitely nervous. I do think at the end of the day, if the Bulls end up facing the Heat at some point, I'll feel pretty good about the Bulls losing it, because Eric Spoelstra probably doesn't look that smart tonight. I think he made some interesting decisions for sure, but when it comes to a must-win game, I trust Eric Spoelstra a lot. So I would personally bet on Eric Spoelstra. If the Bulls face the Heat in the play-in, which is still unknown, I would trust Eric Spoelstra in that situation. But I mean, if the Bulls face the Magic, if the Bulls face the Hawks, I mean, yeah, it could honestly be they're probably favored, but who knows, bro? There's just the Bulls on the road are just better. So like, home court advantage honestly would have probably been worse for them, and the Bulls won't have any home court advantage in the play-in. So yeah, it's honestly there's a chance, and that's not great, because that brings our pick from like 8th or 9th to 15th or 16th, and that's awful. We don't need that. Hawks at least still, I feel, are a good weird matchup for those two, but also since Johnson's out. Yeah, and also the fact that I don't know what the Hawks are doing. Like, they traded some of their win now players, and they're still trying to be like competitive. So yeah, I think that is definitely a match that the Bulls can maybe win, which is bad. I don't want that. I thought he was going to struggle early because it looked like the Heat size and athleticism was going to bother, but he actually had more wrinkles to his game. Yeah, it's all about just being smart, right? Like, if Khalil Ware is back there, Giddey does not have the athleticism or the wingspan and etc. to try to contest against his athleticism, right? Or his height and and his shot blocking ability. But if instead, though, if you're Giddey, you got to keep that in your mind. You're like, okay, well, if Khalil Ware's there in the back and he's going to be there a lot in a half-court set, then my job is to then attack that Miami Heat transition defense, knowing that the shot blocker won't be back there most of the time. Like, get to the basket before the shot blocker can get back in transition. And that's what Giddey was doing really well tonight. Like, he did a very nice job of understanding that and taking the time. He's like, okay, I got only, Tyler Hero on me or whatever. Go at him, right? But then he also was starting to, in the half court, understand, like, okay, if I run this sort of pick and roll set, I need to find a way to get away from Khalil Ware before I even take a shot. And it's just all about being smart, right? That's a very smart thing to do. So keep that up. Keep up that IQ, because that's how you're getting your points right now. And we're looking great with it. Tre Jones' speed was and is great. Yeah, Tre Jones is looking really solid. Like, again, he was the one guy I was really intrigued by from the Levine trade. Collins has been a lot better than I thought he would be. Herter, this is what I'm scared about with Herter. You know, he hit some shots tonight, but this is kind of what I'm scared about with Herter. He still played 30 minutes for whatever reason. But yeah, I actually think that, you know, getting Tre Jones, getting his bird rights, it might become important here. If the Bulls are going to look to keep him, which, I mean, they really should. It's just, yet again, it's just like there are so many damn guards on this roster. And we're missing, you know, we're missing a couple right now with Ayo and Lonzo out, and it feels like it's still a guard-heavy roster. So, you know, some people have to get moved. I'm sorry, but, like AK cannot go into next season with all these guards. Like, the Bulls have, like, 9 guards. I know we have a million guards, but I think we have to keep Tre. I also think we're kind of heading toward that point. Like, again, he's not Lonzo, okay? Like, I'm aware that he's not Lonzo, but, like, let's say you do trade Lonzo. Like, you know, you got a guy here that, yes, he's not the three-point shooter that Lonzo is. Yes, he's not as good of a defender Lonzo is, especially in the off-ball defense. But you're looking at a guy that is still a pretty, like, all right defender, even though he's undersized. And his speed, which Lonzo also brings, right, that's important. Just having just the overall IQ out there on defense is important. And that seems to be what Tre Jones does. And not to mention then again, like, he just... yeah, I mean, he had another, like, I don't know how many turnovers he's had with the Bulls, but, like, he's just a guy that just, like, I don't really think he's going to turn the ball over that much. Like, both Jones brothers just don't really turn the ball over too much. Like, their assist to turnover ratio is, like, pretty good, as you can see here. Like, they just don't turn the ball over. So having that guy on your team is good. It's just, yet again, it's, you know, if he gets a massive deal, then let him go. I'm not going to be, like, losing sleep over it, but I do think that maybe some priorities shift, right? Like, if he's playing this well, then, like, you know, a lot of guys, like this guy in particular, like, do we keep him? I think that's a valid question to kind of start thinking about now, because yeah, there's so many guards on this roster right now. I just don't really need to see, you know, 8, 9 guards on the team, and, you know, half of them don't play. That was the one I had most hope for in the trade being useful. I still think he is that. But after the first games, Tre did look good, and he keeps rising on that for me with his high speed, high effort. Yeah, I really think that Tre overall has been at least the most impressive in my opinion. Zach Collins has been very surprising, but again, I do think that the rebounding is inflated. But his efficiency is the one thing that's just incredible to me. It's like, how are you suddenly more efficient as a player? I don't get it, but awesome. Good job, Zach Collins. He came in, by the way, shooting 27% from three-point range tonight, and he hit 4 of 6. So it's one of those nights, honestly. I was just saying the other stream, I'm like, I don't want Zach Collins shooting any more threes. It just doesn't seem worth it. Like, he dropped his percentage from like 30% to 27% with the Bulls. So just like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need him shooting threes. That's fine. But he hit 4 tonight, of course. So just as always, like, don't think that's gonna continue. That's tying a career high in made threes in a game for him. So nothing that impressive. But yeah, I really do think with Collins, you know, we might have a guy that is pretty productive, which is good. I did not think we are gonna get that. Which again, it's just like, I don't know what happened, but he went from being a very, like, not very inefficient, but like not that great efficient center, and all of a sudden he's looking a lot better defensively and a lot more efficient on offense. So, you know, again, I signed that apology for him yesterday, and not yesterday, last stream. Kevin is mad, to be honest. Maybe they could give him the tiniest trade value. I don't know. The poor man's Duncan Robinson. Yeah, I don't know, bro. Like, I mean, the reason why I'm just concerned with Kevin Huerter is just like this tonight. Like, he wants to just shoot as much as possible, which I get. You know, like, it's kind of weird for me saying like, wow, I think it shoots a little bit too much. But the thing is, though, it's like, if you're just a specialist, like, I don't really know what else you're gonna do. He had some nice rebounds tonight, I'll give him that, but it's just like, it's just kind of like the Kobe White argument we kind of keep having, which Kobe obviously is a better scorer overall, but if Kevin's not hitting that 3, I'm like, I don't know why you're out there. I understand teams have to kind of rotate to him, but that's not enough, at least in my opinion, to kind of keep him out there. I would much rather have a Buzelis or someone else out there. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping we get rid of him, but pretty hard to probably get rid of him at this point, which is fine. And we'll be okay overall. We'll be able to re-sign guys still. Honestly, if you told me we could beat Miami when the three-point shot isn't going in, I wouldn't believe you. Oh, I completely agree. Yeah, if you told me the Bulls shot 26% on from three-point range and we beat the Miami Heat, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no shot. Like the Miami Heat are gonna absolutely destroy us, so we can't make a shot. But we did that tonight. We shot overall pretty badly from the field. Still at 27 assists, by the way. Biggest thing also is just the lack of turnovers, only at 10, and we won, right? I mean, it wasn't amazing. We only scored 114, which is kind of meh in terms of points per game. But yeah, we did it. Good job, honestly. I think the defense really showed up, which you can see here. Like, Miami's shooting numbers were not good either. So yeah, you did a good job of bringing up the defense to help get enough offense, for sure. Team really locks in a defense sometimes. It's fun to watch when they do. Yeah, it's awesome when they finally do lock in. I was pretty pissed off. If you saw my tweets earlier in the game, I was pretty pissed at the level of defense. I was honestly really annoyed because they just kept running after Duncan Robinson and guys were not getting over screens enough. And I was like, bro, like, y'all gotta play it better. I'm sorry, but the effort tonight from the start of the game was just inexcusable. I'm like, I'm not saying to play good defense. Like, I don't expect that. But you can't just be the ones out there just saying, like, oh, we're just going to kind of, try to halfway get through a screen, and then we're going to, run out to Duncan Robinson like it's like life and death at the three-point line, and then we have to pre-rotate because, the defender went flying out there. It's just like, bro, y'all got to lock in better, and they did that. So shout out to them. I do think the 2-3 zone helped, but that initial start to the game, bro, I was just like, I mean, come on, bro. The bar is down here in terms of the defensive efficiency that I expect. But it was bad to start the game, bro. I was so annoyed with some of the guys. It was just honestly everybody. Like, it just, like, from top to bottom. I was mostly the perimeter guys, but even there were moments where Zach Collins, I was just like, what are you doing? Like, you're not playing the pick and roll correctly. So yeah, it was just nice to see then in that fourth quarter where they just locked in defensively. It's like, wow, hey, good job, guys. I'm aware Miami doesn't really have like a go-to guy right now. Like, Hero has been their go-to guy, but he's kind of more off ball as a guy. So yeah, they locked in really well. So good job. Yeah, I was tossing that booze off for Herder at the end. I figured it was pressure, wanting more stretching the floor, but plus minus. But yeah, it was a call I could tolerate even if booze better. Yeah, I don't understand it, but they won. I can't really complain too hard. He had pretty impressive stamina, to be honest, given they had near 40-minute games last night in some players. Yeah, I mean, they typically are always pretty good in terms of, showing their stamina and their fight. Typically has been a thing under Eric Spoelstra, so that wasn't really shocking, honestly. But yeah, I mean, they're clearly missing a kind of go-to guy. Yeah, I love the Kobe White experience. Get where he can't miss, foul by up by 2 to 3 games where he can't make a shot to save his life. Yeah, bro. Early on, man, with Kobe, like, very clearly Miami Heat were put on notice about his 44-point game, but it was just clear that, like, he just can't get the three-point shot going. And that was a problem because Miami was, like, really loading up on him early on. Give him credit. He got to the free throw line enough, and then he made some tough layups at the end of the game. But it was a rough stretch, man. So as usual, I'm going to give him his credit because I do think that he figured it out enough to the point where it's, like, not a bad performance. And he hit some key buckets. But early on, man, I mean, this is the reason why. I'm just like, if you think Kobe White's going to turn into some all-star, I'm like, well, he had some nice key shots on the stretch tonight, but, like, this is kind of the reason why I don't think he will be. Like, this is just, like, prime example A. So, yeah, shout out to him for figuring it out at the end, but it was kind of rough, bro. It was kind of rough. The gap between home and road record this year is crazy. Might actually be danger of winning 2 road games in the play. At this rate, yeah, that's kind of what I'm scared about. I would hate that. But again, if we go to Miami, I expect us to lose to Miami because Spoelstra will lock in. But yeah. I think AD improves the team as he gets better, like how Luka and LeBron can. He has the potential, but still a long way from it. He might have the potential. He might tonight was the most I've ever seen him have that sort of impact, where it's like, yeah, like you're basically the engine tonight. He was doing a lot, from half court to in transition. Like he was pretty much offensive engine tonight. Besides the defense being the engine, like that was the most I've ever seen Josh Giddey have an impact in terms of being kind of the guy controlling the offense. So yeah, like that to me gives me hope that there is a way that Giddey can do this consistently. It's not, obviously it's one game, so I'm not here to say, okay, I'm like, he's gonna be the next Luka. Not there yet, but he showed me tonight that there is a world. Because I honestly, even with the games earlier, I was like, I don't like when he's hitting all these threes and they're not, they're like all catch and shoot threes. I'm just like, yeah, nice job shooting, but like this isn't what I really need to see from you. Like it's great to see 3-point shot going down from you, but you're also hitting at an unsustainable rate. So like I don't really take that too much. But if you're showing me that you can consistently get into the interior and collapse the defense and effectively and consistently and efficiently make shots on the interior with just your overall IQ, then yeah, that proves to me a lot more than you just making a bunch of threes all the time, especially when they're set up for you. So yeah, this is everything that I need to see from Josh Giddey in a nutshell. Like you went out and you efficiently scored on the perimeter and the interior with your off the dribble ball skills in traffic, and you were efficiently able to do that. You continue to rebound effectively, right? You didn't get any offensive rebounds, but you got your 10 defensive tonight. You played good defense tonight on multiple different players, from Andrew Wiggins to Jaime Jaquez to whoever else he guarded. And he continued to push the ball in transition, and most of his assists are still him just finding guys, but there were definitely some assists tonight that it was him collapsing the defense that effectively was again him running the offense, and it's because all of a sudden now he's a bigger scoring threat. So this is the game where I'm like, okay, I see a world. I finally see a world where it can be done. Will it be done? Is he the next star? We'll see. That's up for him to decide. But yeah, I mean, this is again, I think this is the best I have seen him ever control a game. On both, and honestly, both ends of the floor, just overall effort. Like, this is great. Must be players to move off tempo too. Giddey doesn't have amazing stamina. He has big drop-offs even next to most players on back-to-backs in part two. I think that makes sense, but I also just think that if the way the Bulls play, it's not shocking that they're like, I think honestly in back-to-backs they're like one of the worst teams in the league this year on back-to-backs. So that kind of just makes sense in general for everybody. It also would make sense for Giddey, but like it also just makes sense for everybody. I don't really think that that's that big of a shocker. I think the way the Bulls play, it's not shocking to be tired at the second game of back-to-back. Why did Terry stay so bad, but with the way Trey starts getting here playing, he is most likely gone. Yeah, we'll see. Again, if you're wondering about his team option for next season, it's already picked up. So, like, it's not like the Bulls are going to decline it. There's some major Bulls Twitter accounts right now saying that the Bulls should decline Dick Dale and Terry's team option for next year. That got already accepted in September last year. So, as you can see clearly, people still don't know the rules. So I mean, if you want to decline his team option, that's not possible, and that's the rule. Like, you have to accept it early. But yeah, they might trade him. But I mean, either way though, it's like who's gonna stay, who's gonna go. It might be just come down to who's cheaper, and Terry is still gonna be only making like $5 million. So we'll see. Like, if they're able to get rid of Javon Carter, right, then I think Terry has a much higher chance of staying. The problem is just, can you get rid of Javon Carter? That's kind of the biggest problem. I already know he's got those tone-setting elements to his game that I think other guys feed off of. Yeah, and I think that's the first time where I'm like, wow, this is the most I've ever seen Giddey kind of feeding others, like, and him leading the charge. So this is good. May not be that, but he operates in an enhancing way for other players, which some people. Let's go to DeRozan's contrast, sucks the ball to him and does the other end for his success. No, I agree. I mean, there's definitely two different modes, but at the end of the day, you still need to have enough DeRozan in you to still be able to do what we want him to do, right? So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of guys in this league who are just very good passers and everyone loves playing with them, right? Like, I mean, I think I always just go to him, but it's just like Domantas Sabonis is a guy who doesn't take a lot of shots, Like, I mean, he takes a pretty decent amount, but like he doesn't take as much as he probably should, and people just feed off of him, right? But he's very clearly a consistent 20 plus point per game scorer. Jokic is very similar in that sort of sense. Um, you know, Chris Paul is a little bit different story, I guess. But yeah, I do think that there is, Draymond Green. There's always that guy. Kevin Love, I think, is always one of those players too, and he doesn't always get the credit for it. So yeah, there's always these guys that it's like, yeah, like they really do a good job of keep the ball popping, and that's what Giddey should be bringing consistently. Eventually, I think it's part of something you mentioned that I also believe confidence. I don't know, bro. It may be confidence, and maybe it's just because like he thinks that he's gonna make the shots a lot better, but like it's also just being smart. Because again, you're not the most athletic. Like it honestly might be just a growing pain phase for him. Like I hope that's the case, honestly, and it's not just something that's just gonna stay. But like he probably was trying to do a lot of moves where in his younger days where he's the best player on the court, very clearly, and it's just like, okay, well this move works against whoever he is facing in Australia, or even in the Olympics, right? Like there's some moves that just are gonna work because you're facing just lower tier competition. So now that you've started to get away from some of these bad, overall shot selections at the rim, like, yeah, here we go. This is good. Maybe Max Reeves more, but Giddey definitely has confidence to make him under shooting and finishing up close. Yeah, I mean, I hope, bro. I hope it's just a confidence thing. That'd be a great thing to know, but it's just I always get nervous when I hear that because it's just I immediately just think of Patrick Williams, right? Because it's like Patrick Williams doesn't shoot when he should, and it's like, oh, it's just confidence, so Duncan. I'm just like, well, he needs to shoot the damn ball. Like I don't want to try to convince a guy to get more or like try to pump confidence in the guy. So, maybe it is a confidence thing and it's just Giddey's finally figuring it out in year 4. But that always just kind of concerns me. I'm hoping it's more of like an IQ thing where it's like he kind of had like a light bulb go off. It's like, oh, okay, like I can do this more and get this shot more consistently, and I can finish this more efficiently than other shots. Like that's kind of what I'm just hoping for in my part, because I always just whenever I hear confidence, I'm like, oh boy, I start to lose faith immediately. As Giddey believer, I totally got your apprehensions from him. I wouldn't consider you a hater. He just improved. I just sort of believed he could work on it with young players. It's always a crapshoot, so you never know. I mean, yeah, hell, we've been waiting for Patrick Williams to improve. He's gotten worse. So I think for a lot of people, like what I've talked about with Giddey, because if you ever want to go back to watch Josh Giddey video I made when he initially got traded here, like it was all the positives. Okay, like I'm not just to prove again, like I'm not here to hate. I'm just here to analyze. And in that video, I was talking about everything that I think Josh Giddey could bring to the Bulls. But I made it pretty clear on my streams earlier on in the season. I'm like, here's what I'm concerned about. I have a lot of concerns. And just like with Patrick Williams' lack of ability to finish at the rim, and that's been a consistent issue throughout his entire career. Like, I just thought, like, can Giddey prove this wrong? So, I still think we're a ways away. I'll be like, okay, yeah, this is going to be a consistent thing from Giddey from night in, night out. He's a 70th percentile finisher in the NBA from here on out. Okay, that'd be great, right? We're not there yet. I don't think we're there yet. It's again, we don't have enough big enough sample size, because your 3.5 year sample size of bad finishing is going to overcome your 1 month of good finishing. But we're at least showing the ability to do so, which Patrick's for example has not done. But Giddey at least shown me that he can do it. So it's all about, again, consistency. Like, it's just to talk with Kobe as well. It's just like, I keep bringing up consistency because it's like, well, you see Kobe can score 44 on a given night, but can you do it consistently? Like, he has the tools to do it, but it's just, can you go do it? As much as I see a tiny bit of life for Kobe, he's so consistent. I would never want to build with him as a key part, so still want to trade. He was negative till near the end, as often the case. Well, again, I don't always look at plus minus, but like in terms of overall, just like how he was playing, yeah, it was bad until the end. So yeah, I'm still probably on team trade Kobe. Obviously, things can change. Still have this month in April, but yeah, I overall I'm still probably trade Kobe. for now at least. But you know, things change. I'm not. That's not. You know, things very quickly change in the NBA. So you know, at one point you think you're gonna be trading this guy no matter what, and then the next moment you're like, oh, we got to keep him. Now your overall for Kobe 2, this one worst plus minus for the season of Team 2, and recency bias of him playing better final core often pulls him away from people feeling bad how he plays. I think honestly what pulls people away from them feeling bad about him is just that he has like a good game here and there. Like at the end of the day, he's still got 20 points. So like this is his 5th game in a row where he scored 20 points or more, which has been a thing where I'm like, I don't know if he can do that. So he's at least proven that part wrong. It's just that tonight's one of those nights where it's just like, it's just too inefficient. Like you're not being good enough. Like even though you score 20, like, you know, if you have these games once in a while, that's fine. But it's the fact that like you've had too many of these types of games where like you don't even get to 20. That's the problem tonight. So yeah, I just think that it's like the 44-point performance, or like he'll have like a, you know, the 7 3-pointers against the New York Knicks or whatever it was, or was it 9? I don't even know what it was, but it's like those sort of performances keep people like on the Kobe White train. It's like, oh, like Kobe's like, we still see it, it's in him, and it's like, well, is that gonna stay consistent? Like, no, it hasn't. So I hope, again, I want Kobe to be consistent. I would love for him to score 25 a night consistently, and we don't have to worry about it, but it's just, we're not there. And unfortunately, again, like I don't know if you guys have noticed in my streams, like since we've gone towards like this sort of like rebuild mindset, a lot of the talk is just about, okay, we saw this sort of flash from this guy, but can you go and do that again? Like that's what this is going to be about a lot in this rebuild, because it's like we're trying to evaluate certain guys and just like watching and be like, okay, you show me this flash of brilliance or this sort of skill, but can you consistently bring that on a nightly basis? Because that's what we need, right? We can't just have guys where it's just, you know, one day we show up and, you know, play good defense and do this and that, and then the next day it's just like we're nowhere to be found. So that's what this is going to be a lot about. Like that's kind of just the way I've always, like, you know, when I've watched, you know, rebuilds, like hence when I've watched Levine in the first rebuild, I'm just like, well, that guy can go and score, you know, 24 points per game easily. Like that's going to be consistent. Like I knew immediately off the bat. With marketing, it wasn't. It just like I see the flashes, but I don't see it consistently. So like this is just kind of how it's just gonna have to be. It's gonna be like, you know, where we talk about it a lot. I get it. It's not, you know, always the most exciting thing to talk about, but it's what we have to talk about. So it just, you know, all I'm saying is just gear up for it. But how much Giddey's Olympics injury impacted his start to the season? That's related to his better finishing and physicality lately. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's been on the injury report the last couple of games, so I don't really know, honestly, if it's an injury or not. It might just, again, I just think it might just be IQ. For the guard heavy helping factors, I think at least Billy is playing Giddey as small forward, sort of. We have to define a positionless play, and Giddey gives rebounding in size of a small forward. Yeah, I do think Giddey's like the forward right now, if you want to kind of call him that. But like, again, I just say Giddey's just a player out there, because he honestly can like play 1 through 4, I guess, in a sense. More probably 1, 3, and 4, not really the 2. But yeah, I mean, I do think he's probably like the 4, quote unquote, a lot of times. But he just has the ball a lot in his hands. Yeah, I kind of move off of the 3 coming in from Zach Trey. I mean, again, it's just not gonna. I don't really see it happening, but you know, we'll see. Did see the game that Giddey's impact matches stat line? Oh, I think this is honestly the most like his stat line like directly, showed his impact. Like again, if you know him scoring, let's say 28 or whatever, and he's hit like 5 out of 5 threes, it's just like, okay, yeah, cool, awesome, you hit these threes, but you're not known for being a shooter, and you know it's all catch and shoot threes. But tonight was different. Like this was a Josh Giddey is running the team tonight, and this was perfect. Like this is exactly what I wanted to see. So this to me was like the perfect correlation of like, this is the Josh Giddey stat line everyone likes to talk about, but it actually directly correlated to his impact tonight. When there's some nights though where it's just like he'll put up like 17, 8 and 8, and everyone's like, oh, Steve, really good game, but then it's like he shot like 40, or like let's say he shot like under 40% from the field. He, you know, hit like a 3 out of 6 attempts, and you know it wasn't great defense. Like there's definitely factors to it. We have to watch the game, obviously. But I mean, I think this was honestly the most his impact and his stat line was a direct correlation, which was great. He keeps his up. Did he still let the market set the price? Oh, for sure. Yeah, Like, bro, even if Giddey, let's say Giddey averaged a 26-point triple-double for the rest of the season, I am still letting the market set the price. I am not giving Josh Giddey a contract before he hits the market. Because, again, if you're wondering why, okay, like, everyone's scared of, like, oh, what if he plays so well? It's like, we have to jump the market, okay? Here's why, okay? If we're all wondering why we're not going to go and give him a contract, it's this, all right? Next season, there's just not a lot of teams. Like, I know you brought the Brooklyn Nets, AV Breeze, but if that's your only team, then Giddey's basically betting against himself then. Or he's going to be negotiating against himself, which is just like, okay, well, go and get this contract then. Like, I dare you to try to get something for the Brooklyn Nets, because here's the other reality of the situation. If the Brooklyn Nets are the only team that could give him that sort of big of a contract, well, Brooklyn's not going to be facing up against anybody else, okay? So there's no reason for Brooklyn to try to up the price and try to, keep bidding, because it's just outbidding against yourself, right? So no matter what, you're letting the market set the price for Giddey, okay? Unless he gets like the max contract out there, like, I think you're most likely just going to bring him back. But I don't think you're going to get that. I really don't. So Brooklyn obviously is the one team that it really seems like the biggest threat. Detroit's not going to want him because they have Kate Cunningham. New Orleans, we'll see, but I think they need to clean house first. So, and by the way, this is all just projected cap space. This is not even fully correct in terms of everything of like it's not factoring every single team option and non-guaranteed contracts. So this is just like projected practical cap space of like, this is the most amount of cap space a team can get if they clear out all these players. Okay. Obviously you're probably not going to be clearing out every single player. So I do think at the end of the day that no matter what, we're letting the market set the price. We're always just going to be letting the market set the price for Giddey. Yeah, I know that he's played well in February, and then into March it's been pretty good as well. But that being said, not worried at all. You have to just let the market set the tone here, because Josh Giddey is the only player in free agency this upcoming offseason. Okay, people also need to remember that part too, is that Giddey's not the only free agent. Like, he's not going to be the most sought after free agent either. So you have to make sure that you don't jump the market and overpay for him. That'd be the worst thing you can do right now. My favorite Giddey aspect is the game IQ. He might not always be able to make the finish or shot, but he knows the right call, especially for age. Yeah, the one thing that I need him to work on, though, like, I do think that most of the time he is trying to make the right play, or he sees what could be the right play. The one thing he needs to do, though, is just like, he needs to really start cutting down on those very 50-50 bullet passes that like thread the needle, and it's like, I don't know if that's gonna get in there, and then it's it gets stolen. Like, that's the one thing he needs to take out of his game, because at the end of the day, that is just considered a bad pass, which is that is probably a correlation of low IQ, which he's not that. Like, Giddey overall has been a pretty high IQ player in his career, but that's the one thing I need him to cut down on, because that again, it's like too many turnovers for a guy. If you're only going to be averaging like 7 assists, like that's too many turnovers. So that needs to go down. Watching that kid he plays with compared to someone like LaMelo is night and day, but I think they have different games, right? I don't think LaMelo is the smartest player in the world by any means, but one is very clearly a guy who can go score 30 a night. The other is not that. So there's difference, right? Just because someone is just mostly a scorer does not mean that they have low IQ. Like, people think Levine is like one of the most low IQ players in the league. He's definitely not the smartest player in the league, but when some people think it's a bad decision when he takes a shot, it's honestly probably a good decision, because again, he's one of the most efficient players in the league. I think a lot of like the more score first types guys, like they kind of get like the low IQ type of label on them, when it's like, no, they probably made the right decision. It's just that everyone thinks that passing and good defense is like high IQ, when it's like, they may not always play good defense or have the best passes, but they're still probably a pretty smart overall player, especially in their ability to score. There's a lot of ways, like a lot of smart things people do. Like, some of the best scorers in the league, there's a lot of things they do that's very, very smart of them to go and score. That is just not part of the IQ overall attribute grade that we try to give to people. It's like, that's where I think people don't really fully give people credit, where it's like, their best ability is to score. So you're saying that they should be passing this sort of in this possession, when it's like, well, they know their best attribute is to score. they're not the best passer in the world, so why would you want them to do something that's not their best attribute? There's obviously times where you need to have them pass, but there's also just times where everyone's like, that's a bad decision by this player. I'm like, no, I think that's all right. I think Kobe overall this season, like when we're talking about like low IQ, I think he's had a lot of moments where it's just like, why'd you drive in the middle of the lane and there's like already 2 shot blockers back there? We don't need that. That's bad IQ, right? But you know, I do think that there's times with Kobe as well where like he'll launch a 3 and everyone's like, that's a bad decision. It's like, no, that was probably a good decision. I'm actually like more pissed off at Kobe sometimes when he drives, when I'm like, there's no reason to drive here. Like you can shoot it instead. Giddey is one of only 3 guys to average as many points, rebounds, assists as he did the other 2 Hall of Famers. Okay, so I'm aware of that stat. Okay, but there's also someone named Thaddeus Young that is like on a list of like, you know, other, you know, Hall of Famers that are just like insanely like MVP type players. Okay, there's always an outlier. Like, let's just be real. All right, there's always an outlier. Thaddeus Young is on, I don't know what that list is specifically, but it's very funny to look at because it's just like, how the hell is Thaddeus Young on this list? Like, someone can maybe like tell me what it is, but I'll try to look it up really quickly. But it's like, yeah, like you see this, bro? Like this is one of the funniest things in my opinion. Like, this right here is one of the funniest things to look at because it's players with 800 games to average at least 13.5 points per game, 5.9 rebounds, and 1.4 steals with 49% field goal percentage and at least 30% three-point percentage. It's just like, okay, this is kind of odd. It's really, really whack numbers, but it's like, sure. But they, out of these whack numbers, though, they only have 5 players that have ever done this in the NBA, and it's all these players. Like, it's just weird, you know? So that's the reason why I'm like, I understand those numbers exist. Like, I'm aware that those numbers exist. But at the same time, there's always an outlier, okay? And I don't even know if this is even the correct one. I think that is the one, though. But, like, I know NBA TV also had one that was really funny. It was just like, huh, that's a very funny stat. I'm going to click on Reddit really quickly here. I try to stay away from Reddit as much as possible, but I am trying to get into it. I guess this is it. So, like, again, I'm aware of the stat. I hope Giddey is on the right side of history, and it's like he'll turn into that sort of player. But at the same time, there's always an outlier. And that's just kind of the problem that I always think people forget. It's like, yes, I'm aware of these stats, but also, what have I told you that Luka Doncic is probably on his way to, like, you know, being like a top 3 overall, you know, shooter in the NBA in terms of 3-pointers made in a career. Like, you know, it's also kind of just relative to understand, like, the game's also at this point in time, like, a lot of guys can like pile up numbers quickly. Granted, Giddey is one of only 3 guys right now to have those sort of numbers, so granted, yeah, that's a very good sign. But same time though, there's always an outlier. So I get it. Looking at college numbers, I honestly wouldn't mind if he stays on the team. No, I honestly wouldn't mind either. The problem is just the contract. Like, I don't hate the player. It's just the contract right now is just so large. For a guy that I think is just a backup, like, I mean, honestly, he's done really well as a starter. So, like, if you're able to move Vooch, then the contract looks a lot better than for Zach Collins if you're able to move Vooch, because then we're not worried about Vooch's contract anymore. But the thing is, though, it's just that, like, I don't know if you're gonna be able to move Vooch. I hope that, dear God, you would be able to. It's just that he's making $18 million next season. Like, he's making $3 million less than Vooch. Who I think Vooch is overpaid, if you're wondering, by the way. So, like, that's how I evaluate guys. Like, I think Vooch is overpaid. He should not have gotten this deal. So, yeah, that's kind of just how I look at this. I'm like, Collins is going to be making $18 million next season. That's too much. Especially if you're playing backup center. But, you know, it's a trade that you accepted. The good news, obviously, is just that he comes off the books next season, or the following year. So, hopefully that you know, Bulls don't sign him to a very bad contract overall. Just looking at Kobe first half versus second half this season, goes from 38% first half, 2 quarters, to 48% shooting from third to 44% fourth. That's crazy, bro. Don't get it, but that's Kobe White for you. We hope getting us around our 27 million if he balls out the rest of the season. I don't see him playing up to higher contract fast enough for it to be reasonable value. if I had to make a bet right now, I think he gets under 27 million. If I had to make a bet of how much Josh Giddey's going to get per season, I would actually say it's going to be under 25 million. That's at least my bet. Because again, there's not a singular team. Okay, like again, pull up this graphic one more time. There's not a singular team with the projected practical cap space that's going to have even $25 million to offer him per season. And that's with, assuming the Pistons get rid of all their free agents, right? This next offseason, okay? So, projected practical cap space for the Detroit Pistons this season, like, that means they got rid of Malik Beasley. That means they got rid of, Dennis Schroeder. That means they got rid of all their, like, guys on non-guaranteed contracts. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. Like, is Malik Beasley going to be going anywhere? I don't know, but I kind of doubt it. But even then, they don't even have $25 million, okay? That's assuming, again, this is if they clear all their cap holds, all right? And I'm going to assume that they're not going to do that, because if you're going to try to, if Malik Beasley's not going to re-sign with you, you're probably going to look at sign and trade him. So, it just, to me, if I had to make a bet, it's going to be under 25 million, because the only team that can offer him even $25 million currently right now, still, things can change, I'm aware, players can get traded, but the only team that can even offer him that much money right now is the Brooklyn Nets projected cap with their projected practical cap space. Again, that's not even considering the other things that we have to keep in mind, okay? So, like, the Detroit Pistons, I mean, that's that. But, I mean, for example, like, the Bulls are on here, right? Like, the Bulls, the projected practical cap space for the Bulls is, like, let's just say 20 million, okay? But I've gone over this, that the Bulls are not going to have cap space this offseason unless they get rid of Josh Giddey's rights, okay? That means you have to, not offer Josh Giddey the qualifying offer. You get rid of his cap hold, which means then you can't re-sign him over the salary cap because you don't have his bird rights anymore. So, again, like, this graphic here is showing only the projected practical cap space the team can have. But that's if they get rid of all their free agents, okay? The Bulls are on here, but I've already said it. If you're bringing back Josh Giddey, the Bulls don't have any cap space this upcoming offseason. So, like, this just is showing you that there are just so many teams that just don't have cap space. Like, it shows it right now that they could, but that's if they, get rid of all their free agents, right? That's if they renounce all their rights, and that's not something that is going to happen. Like, not all the teams are going to renounce all their rights. So that's the reason why I continue to say it. Like, the people that think it's going to be the high 20s, like, I'd be shocked if he gets up there. That's an AK mess up then if he gets up there. Like, if Josh Giddey gets $28 million per season, that's AK failing yet again, because he should not get that. Like, unless Brooklyn actually offered that. Like, if we find out Brooklyn did offer that, fair. But I really don't think Josh Giddey should be even getting, like, over $25 million per season, okay? Because, yet again, the Bulls are projected to have 20. That's if they get rid of Josh Giddey, okay? That's the only way they can even have cap space is if they get rid of Josh Giddey. And we're not doing that, okay? So imagine with the other teams that it's like they have, up-and-coming free agents, but they're going to try to keep them, okay? That's not being calculated into this, because that's not something you can't calculate that. So it's just something to keep in mind. This is the reason why I'm saying, again, if you think that the Bulls should jump the market, I beg you to look at this, because this shows you that there are just not a lot of teams that have cap space, because the Bulls are potentially the fourth team in terms of most cap space this upcoming offseason. That's if they don't re-sign Josh Giddey. And that's not going to happen. We're re-signing Josh Giddey. So just keep this in mind, okay? That's the reason why one more time that I'm like, listen, it's just not smart for them to jump the market. Last time Sobe gets most of the scoring in one hot quarter. In Indiana, he had 20 early second and 6 the rest of the game. Oh my god, that game also, yeah. Yep. Well, given there are several free agents I would love the Bulls to have space for at least one of as a punt adding into the drafted players. Again, the Bulls. Okay, if the Bulls are re-signing Josh Giddey, you're not gonna have any cap space. So the most that the Bulls can give out to players is just gonna be the biannual exception, which I don't know what that's gonna be off the top of my head. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be like $7 million. I have to look at that. And then it's gonna be the mid-level exception. Okay, so it's not a lot. It's the mid-level exception is gonna be about $14 million. And then the biannuals, only a 2-year contract you could give out to a player that is, I don't know, it's gonna be like $6 or $7 million, somewhere around there, per season. So it's not a lot the Bulls can offer. Assuming, again, this is assuming that you don't get rid of a bunch of money. Here's the thing though, like if you're wondering, like let's say the Bulls get rid of Vooch, okay? they still won't have cap space because if you're re-signing Giddey, then that basically takes up Vooch's spot. But either way, though, you're already over the salary cap, even if you get rid of Vooch. So it's not like the Bulls suddenly open up cap space, which is the reason why I've been saying, like, if you're wondering why the Bulls won't be signing guys with cap space this upcoming offseason, it's because of guys like Kevin Huerter and Zach Collins and Nikola Vucevic contracts. Okay, this is the reason why we don't have any money this upcoming offseason to spend, is because of those contracts. Hence why I don't want them here. But we still will have some money in terms of the mid-level exception and the biannual exception. I will be making a video, by the way, if you're wondering, like, before we really head into the offseason, like, I will be making a video. I know I haven't made a video at all since the season started, but I want to make things clear because a lot of people think that we can get Naz Reid this upcoming offseason. I'm just like, no, we can't. Like, unless we're gonna pull off some miraculous sign and trade, and even then, that's very hard to do. You're not getting Naz Reid this upcoming summer. Giddey best, I think he tries to be cool and fancy when overconfident in versus pure dumb. Oh, it's definitely like it's helpful that he sees like some sort of pass, but it's also just like you have to be smart enough to either make the pass or don't make the pass, right? So IQ is green on Rockets. High IQ score is SGA. Well, I even think Jalen Green's been a little bit better recently. Like, I think he's been a little bit smarter overall. But yeah, I mean, his SGA is insane. Like, he's, he isn't the best passer in the world necessarily, but like he's very, very smart. If that young list is bad comparison because it includes 800 plus games played or something, which is cherry picking on longevity, right? But if out of the cherry picked numbers, there are only 5 players in NBA history that got those numbers. Like, is it really that? Is it really that cherry picking? Like that's kind of insane to look at, though, right? Like, it's those 5 players. Every young player's a huge opportunity to rack up counting stats. Now everyone's 6th in the league for decorates, so that's a huge filter, which would then also help my argument. Because if Giddey is racking up all these stats, like, that doesn't mean that he's going to stick in the league for here and out. Like, I agree. So I'm just pointing it out, though. It's just like there's always outliers in certain stats. It's like, yeah, this guy, looks amazing, and he's like in this category of certain players. It's like, okay, cool. Well, let's actually see if he's going to live up to that sort of expectation, because let's be real, I don't think Josh Giddey is going to be Nikola Jokic. So okay, I think we can all just accept that. Give me that discount, Giddey. I'm going to start hoping less now that Giddey deserves like 18 million. I mean, bro, I we'll see. I do think he'll probably get the 20 million mark just because AK's stupid and he won't let the market fully decide it. But if I was AK personally, I'm just saying, hey, go get a contract. We'll match whatever you get. I mean, if like people think that's mean and it's just like, oh, you're not building trust within the player. That's what they did to Zach. Like, this happens a lot, guys. Like, the restricted free agency, this is how it works. You don't typically agree to the extension, and then you go out and you basically tell the player, go get a contract, and you decide to match it or not. Like, that's okay. It's not like anything. There's not going to be like, oh, we're trying to like, make a player feel left out or anything like that. It's like, no, this is just how restricted free agency works. The thing is, though, it's just that we've seen such a big boom in salary cap recently that like we just haven't seen it too often, where it's like, oh, well, we're seeing teams go out and just try to lock up guys and on long-term contracts, and like they'll give a little bit extra money just to make sure they get the long-term deal done. But like Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu, they got hit with the restricted free agency, kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, but like nerf. Like, their value got nerfed because they're a restricted free agent, and they're basically just like AK in the front office, but we're basically just like go and get a contract. Honestly, I honestly think with Ayo, they could have even gotten him for cheaper. I honestly think that Ayo wasn't going to get much of an offer from any team because he had a pretty poor season. Or I guess it wasn't that poor, but his 3-point shooting took a major dip in his sophomore season. So it's like that. I actually think they could have, played an even riskier game with Ayo and just been like, okay, yeah, go get a contract and we'll just match whatever it is. And Ayo might have just accepted the qualifying offer at the end of the day, which they probably didn't want to do that, hence why they did a 3-year contract. But like this is just how it goes. It's not abnormal for restricted free agency to go this way, and I think that Bulls fans need to just kind of take a chill pill about it, because they're like, oh, well, we don't want to overpay for him. Like, okay, but let's be honest with ourselves. Like, what's the reality of a team actually overpaying for him? If it does happen, okay, we took the L, sure. But I just think that that's a very dumb decision to go ahead and try to jump the market, because the Bulls have done that with Patrick Williams this past offseason, and look at how much it's hurting them. Now, granted, I thought that was the correct decision, because I thought at the time it was like, oh, we're gonna you know, the previous market for forwards like Patrick Williams, like for example Jaden McDaniels, like Devin Vassell, like these guys got paid a lot of money. So I was thinking that P was gonna get a lot of money. And so, you know, I guess we'll never really know, because they didn't really try to do that. Like, they didn't let him go out into the market. But yeah, I could be wrong here, but the way I just look at it, I'm like, this is the way I would personally do it. So, you know, trust me or not, I mean, you can go ahead and just take this as a grain of salt at the end of the day. Though he's still with the last, he market, oh, you let the market assess and you there, Duncan. I mean, some weird players for value at the moment, feel like Cam Thomas isn't he? He can easily go like all kinds of values. Oh, for sure. But I think also Cam Thomas, with his recent injury history, that's kind of like the bigger thing going on with him right now. But yeah, I do think that's definitely guys to look at. So yeah, there's definitely, just again, you just have to kind of just be smart about it. Like, don't jump the market when this is a free agency period with a lot of teams with no cap space. Like, okay. 7 mil and mid-level is enough for players they want. I mean, I hope so. Here's the other thing, though, to keep in mind. I also have to keep this in mind for you guys. If the Bulls do re-sign Josh Giddey and then they want to use the mid-level exception, the Bulls are hard capped. That's the other thing to keep in mind about this Josh Giddey deal. Like, you want to try to get it as cheap as possible, because if you want to use your full mid-level exception and you don't end up trading Vooch off, or you don't get any other extra money off, and you want to bring back Trey Jones, okay? So just if you want a full breakdown of this, here we go. But basically, okay, if you're wondering, mid-level exception, one more time, I know I've explained this a lot on this channel, but if you use the mid-level exception, if you use half the mid-level exception or more, you're hard capped at the first apron, okay? The first apron for this season specifically is at $178 million, okay? So when the Bulls signed Jalen Smith, they hard capped themselves at $178 million. So that means no matter what happens, their overall salary, their team salary cannot exceed $178 million, okay? Now, if you look at for the upcoming seasons for the Bulls, okay, then this is just projected numbers. It's not official numbers just yet, but the projected salary cap is $154 million, okay? The projected first apron threshold is $195, okay? Now, if you're wondering, the tax line, all right, it's different, all right? The tax line is always different from the apron. The tax line is typically like $8 million, I think, below the first apron, so there's a difference, okay? That's also something to keep in mind, because the Bulls will never go into the tax. But let's just say, for example, this current team right now, as currently, like, without signing any free agents, okay, the Bulls right now, with this team in play, have $134 million already given out to players, okay? That's committed money, all right? If you're wondering, the projected threshold for the first apron is $195 million, okay? Now, again, this is $134 million without re-signing Josh Giddey and without re-signing Trey Jones, okay? So let's say, for example, Josh Giddey, we'll go high here. Let's say he goes for $25 million per season. So, you know, let's say 135 goes up to 160, okay? Trey Jones, I'm going to project high here. Let's say somebody gets $15 million a season. I would doubt that, but let's just say he gets that, okay? Then you're at $175 million already, okay? So you're already at $175 million, and your luxury, your first apron is at $195 million, or let's say 196, because it's close to that. Your tax line overall, I mean, quick math, it looks like it's gonna be 100. What is this? Like 189, it looks like. So, I mean, again, let's just say you're already at $175 million, and the Bulls will never go into the tax. So that means pretty much that you only had the mid-level exception to spend that, because that's going to be about $14 million, okay? So it's something to just keep in mind that, like, the reason why it's important for the Giddey contract to not be so large is because the Bulls then would really hinder their ability to use the entire mid-level exception, because then even in that sort of scenario, right, which is me, you know, going high, okay, I'm projecting high here, but if that does happen, then the Bulls would not use their biannual exception, because they would not have the money they wouldn't have enough space before the luxury tax and they would hit into the luxury tax, which we know the Bulls will never be a luxury tax team. So it's important for multiple reasons why the Giddey contract has to be low or lower than, you know, $30 million per season, because that's going to really mess up the Bulls' overall ability to spend and get other guys. Ideally, like, again, I'm hoping like it's going to be probably around $20 million per season. Okay. And, you know, maybe it's $21 or $22 million per season. That's fine. And it goes up 8% every single season. But that's going to give the Bulls enough space where they can use their time with low exception and use their biannual exception maybe and not go into the luxury tax. So you can go and get, you know, take a risk on like, you know, some young flyers or get some young overall players to come in that are more steady. Like, that's important. We sort of kind of looked at this earlier, but I did look at this in one of my previous streams. But it's like this upcoming free agent class, it's like it's not a lot in terms of like what I'm really looking at, but like I don't a lot of people want Naz Reid. I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna be he's not gonna go for that cheap. I promise you that. But like we were looking at centers, it's just like I don't really know, honestly. Like the center market looks pretty meh for the Bulls. Like unless you want Kevon Looney, which honestly fine, but you know, you're already committed to Jalen Smith and Zach Collins. You know, maybe a Darion Sharp if you wanted to. Jackson Hayes, you know, I see the potential, but the guy is kind of weird. So I don't really know, honestly. You know, Quentin Post. He is a club option though, so he's not gonna be afraid. So, you know, there's some people there. In terms of the forward position, we've looked at a few people. Who did I say last stream? I sort of talked about Trey Lyles. Oh yeah, I said Precious. I think Precious would be a guy maybe the Bulls could go after. That's a guy that I would really try to look for. Trenton Watford's a guy I would maybe look at. Again, we're talking about cheap options here. I mean, these are like the sort of people I'm just kind of looking at here for this upcoming free agency. If you want a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, I think it's gonna be pretty tough to get him. He's gonna cost a lot more money than I think $14 million a season at least. Could be wrong, but at least that's what I projected out to be. So, yeah, it's kind of just it's a little bit bare, but there are definitely some people that I'm sure the Bulls could be looking at as like some helpful people to bring in. Who did I say? I honestly forgot who I said for the guard position. I know I had somebody at the guard position, but I don't remember. Yeah, we're not gonna get Quentin Grimes. I would love him. I don't know. I'll have to relook at this again. Obviously, we're not going to get any of these guys up here. They're too expensive. I don't know. Like maybe somehow you're able to pull Kelly Oubre away. I'm going to guess that he declines the player option and get a lot more money, though. Yeah, I honestly think Precious is kind of like the main target I would really go after because he's an unrestricted free agent. He's going to be pretty cheap in terms of overall money you have to give out. I understand him and Jalen Smith might be a little bit redundant, but I'd be willing to take the risk. I don't know. I'll have to relook at this because I was really heavily focused on like the 2027 offseason because that's when the Bulls should be spending a lot more money. Do you want to try a sizable trade exception too? We do. But reminder, if you use the trade exception, it adds to your salary cap total, right? It's not like the money just like goes kaput. So yeah, we have a pretty sizable trade exception. Honestly, it should honestly say it here. No. I guess not. Huh. Okay, we'll go to this year because I know it says it under this year for sure. Yeah. Okay. So. Here's the, so if you're wondering, so we still have this DeMar DeRozan trade exception, which was from the DeMar DeRozan trade to the Sacramento Kings. Basically, though, we used most of that in the Zach LaVine deal to take on Kevin Huerter's contract. We used this, we decided to do that because then taking on Kevin Huerter's deal in the trade exception, then created a new trade exception, which is now the Zach LaVine trade exception, which is basically like Kevin Huerter's contract plus like a little bit. So this trade exception here only has like $600K left remaining. Don't worry about that. That doesn't matter. The Alex Caruso trade exception also doesn't matter. I mean, it's 2.8 million. It'll get a minimum if you want, I guess. But this trade exception here is $17 million. So the Bulls can take on a player that's making $17 million or less, and not have to send out any money. But like, let's be real. What are we really gonna be able to do that? We'd have to give up picks then. It's just like, we're not gonna be giving up picks. So, yeah, I don't really think it's gonna happen. We're gonna be really using that. Brandon Carlson for center. I mean, I know you like Brandon Carlson. I have to do I have to do a lot more research on him though. And again, we already have, like, we might potentially already be heading into the next season with 3 centers. So I'd be a little bit concerned about adding another center. But if you can move Vooch, yeah. Bulls should consider the Kuminga versus Giddey contracts and who you would have to give up. Yeah. Oh, Aldama. Yeah, I forgot about Aldama. Aldama is definitely a guy, yeah, I would definitely be looking to try to get. He might be a little bit expensive for the Bulls, but if you can find a way to have him take the mid-level exception, I would definitely go after Aldama. For sure. I don't really know what Aldama's overall market is going to be. That's going to be an interesting thing to look at, because he's a guy, though, that I would definitely look to try to get. He'd be a flyer I'd take on. Sorry, I think I guess they added this now. They just added a new position just called wing, which is funny. That's interesting. I feel like I'm missing one guy, because like, I know I said Precious, but I thought there was another forward out here that I was like, yeah, maybe check it. I mean, I know I talked about Trent Watford already. I'm personally not on the Bull train. I know he's been playing well recently. I don't know. I must just honestly be tripping. Huh. Yeah, all stars. Okay, yeah, I don't know. But sorry, I just want to see, is Aldama even listed on here? Like, am I just losing my mind? What is? Oh, he's technically a center? That's crazy to me. I did not think he was a center. Okay, sure. I guess he's a center. I guess he's under this position. I guess under the center spot. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, like, I said Kevon Looney, if like we get rid of Vooch, I'd be fine with that. I mean, Day'Ron Sharpe is definitely interesting. I won't lie. Yeah, so here's Aldama. That's funny. I don't really think he's a center, but sure. Yeah, here's Brandon Carlson. Yeah, Quinton Post has a club option, so that's just not an option, at least in my opinion. Warriors need to pick that up because, I mean, hell, the Warriors are going to be strapped for cash, or salary, just honestly, just luxury tax space. They need as many cheap contracts as they can get right now. Yeah, in terms of guards, obviously you got to try to bring back Trey Jones, try to bring back Giddey. I mean, I'm not on the Davion Mitchell hype train. Aaron Holiday is already 28. Like, we don't really need many more guards, so I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm good. Ty Jerome, I guess. Yeah, I think, honestly, this is just a pretty mid overall free agency class as well. Like, if you're wondering, I had a whole on rant about for the Bulls, like, because AK went on and gave me the Hot Sauce podcast and like tried to lay out like a plan for the future, and I'm just like, one of the things he kind of at least hinted at was just that like the Bulls should be spending more, or should be spending money in 2026, and I'm just like, bro, if we spend all of our money in 2026, okay, so here's the 2026 free agency class, okay. So if you're wondering, okay, like, first and foremost, I'm aware that there's some of these guys who are available, but like, you're not getting Lillard, you're not getting LeBron. LeBron might be retired at this point. Why would you take Beal? You're not going to bring Durant in. Why would you bring back Zach? I would not want to bring in Trae Young. Luka obviously would be awesome, but I expect him to sign a max contract or extension with LA. Like, all these guys up here that are superstars, you're not getting. And then even some of like the other guys down here, it's just like they're too old. The one guy I would love is Isaiah Hartenstein, but he has a club option, so it's like, okay, that's not possible. So it's just like, to me, at least in my opinion, 2026 free agency is not the free agency offseason to spend. You want to spend in this free agency period, okay? So like I don't necessarily think you're gonna be getting like you're not gonna be getting Steph, you're not gonna get AD. Most likely not getting AD, I should say. I mean, hell, I don't know what's gonna happen in Dallas. But like, yeah, you know, some of these guys with like their player options or whatever. But like most of these guys, you're probably not gonna be able to get like, and you know, I doubt you're gonna be able to get Giannis, but you know, maybe. But the biggest thing is just like, you know, if you wanted, for example, Isaiah Hartenstein, now is the time. He's an unrestricted free agent in this offseason, so like go after him then. That'd be the ideal time to go after him. There's just a lot more guys to go after in this free agency period, at least in my opinion, that are kind of worth the risk. So if you want to try to, you know, get a restricted free agent guy away from their incumbent team, like if you have the money to do so, like you'd be able to do that in this upcoming offseason. So at least in my opinion, wait until 2027. Don't spend in 2026 unless like you know pulled off some miraculous trade or whatever. Like don't spend in 2026. Spend in 2027 because this is the offseason, at least in my opinion. There's a lot more guys I think are more intriguing. A lot more guys to take a risk on. A lot more unrestricted free agents that I think are worth trying to just send the bag over to if you're going to be wanting to spend then. Don't spend, you know, in 2026. Like, that's not the time. Spend in 2027. That's the better time to go and spend some money, and you'll look a lot better doing that. But at the end of the day, I genuinely do not know. Like, for example, like Lou Dort, for example, like is a guy I would love to go and get. He's an unrestricted free agent this offseason, okay? Like, yeah, like I would much rather go and get him in the offseason, right? So, yeah, that's all I just want to point out because, like, holy crap, bro. If we spend in 2026 and then we have nothing for the 2027 free agency class, like that's gonna make me lose my mind. Like DeAndre Hunter's an unrestricted free agent. Like that's a guy maybe you want to you know see. Like if he turns into like a pretty solid player in Cleveland, he doesn't sign an extension. Like hey, I mean if he's like a nice solid wing for the future, like cool, send some money after him. Like that's just kind of what I'm saying. Just like keep this open because if you spend all your money in 2026 and have nothing for this free agency class, I'm gonna lose my mind. You absolutely messed up there if you're AK. Sharp is interesting too. Having Vooch in that spot to trial new blood is frustrating. Oh, I mean, bro, I don't want Vooch here at all. Yeah, that's gonna be really frustrating. If Vooch is still here next season, and it's like we can't give minutes to Colin Smith, and if we bring a new center in, yeah, it's gonna be hella frustrating. Give Jericho Sims a two-way. I wouldn't mind it. Is he eligible still though? I have to look at that. Ben Simmons minimum contract offer in case anybody takes him. Or in case nobody takes him. I'm not really on that train, honestly. If he doesn't retire from pay, he'll get something for sure. He'll get something. It just has got to be on the proper team, which I just don't know about that. What you think about getting the Zach LaVine guy? It looks good. Yeah. Bro, I'm at least happy LaVine's getting his praise now suddenly. Like, Kings fans are shocked that like he's making like, you know, 7 threes in a game. I'm just like, bro, like this is just how bad the Bulls PR is because everyone thinks around the league that the Bulls are just bad and everyone on the Bulls is bad. Like LaVine's a very good player, one of the most efficient scoring guards in the league, and everyone's just like, oh my god, I can't believe he's scoring all these threes like off the dribble and you know he's such an efficient 3-point shooter. I'm like, well, try to tell you, bro. This upgrade free agency for me is about taking flyers on players who might develop. Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely take a flyer. Like I'd be again like maybe Precious, probably a little bit. You know, he's probably a little bit more of who he is already, but like he's 25. So. Maybe we kick tires on Giannis, see if he really is serious about what he said. I would love that, bro. I mean, hell, if you do it correctly, then you'll have plenty of money to go and try and get Giannis Antetokounmpo in the 2027 free agency class. Like you have plenty of money to do so. But again, you gotta do it right. And by the way, that's me accounting for Giddey's extension and everything. Like it would work out. It's just, you know, you gotta do it correctly. Isaiah Susumu to Giddey is the center for me to see that making either look good, even though I really like him. I mean, if Josh Giddey is the reason why, unless he develops into your all-star, but if you're saying that Josh Giddey is the reason why you don't want to get a player, then I think we're thinking about things wrong. Like I just think you just go and get the best players you can. Obviously fit has to be considered a little bit, but like I don't want to be making a decision based on if Again, unless Giddey's the all-star on the team. But if he isn't, then I don't want to be thinking about, oh, well, Giddey doesn't really fit with this guy. That's like my only thing about it. Dort has next to no chance OKC wouldn't sign it if they get Dort worth going above for he is impressive in corner piece that is easy to trade for a pick. I mean, yeah, again, we'll see. I know we already talked about it, but I'm kind of scared some dumb team's gonna offer Giddey way too much rankings in a match, and probably the Suns. Viper Strike, what money do you think the Phoenix Suns have? Like, I'm being dead honest right now. Like, what money do you think the Phoenix Suns actually have? I talked about this earlier, Viper Strike, so stick with me one more time. One more time, everybody, just stick with me through this, okay? So, the projected cap space for projected practical cap space, okay? This is for this upcoming offseason, okay? These are all the teams with the most projected practical cap space, okay? So, right now, the only team that can even offer Giddey a $30 million per year contract for the projected practical cap space is the Brooklyn Nets, okay? So that's already, like, that's just one team. So if Brooklyn does do it, okay, you know, so be it. But I'm going to make my overall bet and say that they're not going to go do that. The other teams, though, the only other teams that, like, the other teams, like, so Detroit's number 2, okay? Detroit, it has projected practical cap space of $24 million. That's if they get rid of all their free agents, okay? That's if they don't bring back Malik Beasley, who's having a fantastic season. That's if they don't bring back Dennis Schroeder. That's if they get rid of all these guys here and renounce all their rights for their free agents, okay? That's not even taking consideration for any other trades they decide to do or any other players they try to go and sign in free agency, okay? So, now they could maybe trade Tobias Harris, but at the end of the day, I mean, either way, you're looking at this like, well, that's not that much money to really offer, even for a guy like Giddey, right? The Bulls are number 4 in projected practical cap space, okay? But I've already made it very clear. The Bulls do not have any cap space this upcoming summer if they're going to re-sign Josh Giddey, okay? So no matter what, like, I don't really care what you think. Like, if you look at this like, oh, we have cap space, like, no, we don't. If the Bulls are going to re-sign Josh Giddey, they don't have cap space. It's going to take up all their cap space even if they even had a chance of thinking about it, okay? Because Giddey's cap hold is $25 million. So that in and itself is going to be taking up so much cap space that it's just not possible. But that's the Bulls, okay? The Bulls are number 4 on this list, and that's basically them without cap space, okay? So at least in my opinion, the way I look at this, it's like there are not a lot of teams that really have cap space this upcoming summer, and if they do, it's not enough to offer for Josh Giddey, okay? The only way these other teams could get in on the bidding is if they do a sign-and trade. And let me remind you about the first apron rules, that if you pull off a sign-and trade, acquiring a player via a sign-and trade, that means you're hard capped at the first apron, and there are many teams past that first apron level. So all these teams down here are not going to go and do that, okay? So that already eliminates these teams down here. Then we have to already talk about the teams that are not even past the first apron, but if you pull off a sign-and trade, it's going to make you hard capped at the first apron, which is going to really hinder a lot of teams' ability to go after someone like Josh Giddey, okay? Why would you make a sign-in trade when it's going to hard cap you at the first apron and you probably need to spend more money already? So that kind of eliminates a lot of these other teams down here. So it kind of goes down to these teams, and the Bulls right here are number 4 in terms of projected practical cap space, but I already told you that they're not going to have cap space. So at least in my opinion, I don't think anyone's going to really give Giddey like a ridiculously stupid offer. I want to bet on that, and you know, the Brooklyn Nets are going to go and give Josh Giddey a $40 million per year contract, then you know what? I say goodbye to Josh Giddey and say, enjoy the $40 million per year contract, Brooklyn Nets. Okay? Like, that's it. So be it. But if I really had to make this sort of bet, like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that there's all these teams down here that we're looking at is like, oh, well, these teams have cap space. And yes, there are obviously more ways to get cap space in this league. And you can, you know, this is not accounting for teams trading players. Like if we trade Vooch, for example. But that's not really something you can calculate right now. And it's kind of hard right now to really send out players without taking back much money in return because of these new salary cap rules. So I personally think it's going to be fine. I think that you betting on Josh Giddey to just be like, go and get whatever you can and we'll match whatever, I think it's going to be a very good decision at the end of the day. So I could be wrong. I was wrong about the Patrick Williams decision. I thought the Bulls did a good job jumping the market on that one because I looked at Devin Vassell and Jaden McDaniels and what they got. I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. I don't want Patrick Williams getting $127 million. So I thought them, giving him that contract was fine. The 5-year $90 million. So I could be wrong about this, obviously, but I don't know. At least in my opinion, I think that the Bulls should do what I'm saying. But that's, I'm not in the front office. I don't have all the stats and projections in front of me, unfortunately. I wish I did. And to answer your question about the Suns, bro, I don't know what the hell the Suns are going to be doing, honestly, because you're not moving that Beal contract, right? So already just off of this alone, okay, their active, actually, hold on, let me double check this, but I think their active roster, yeah, it's already at like $214 million, okay? That's not accounting for all their cap holds that they're going to be having, which is very minimum, it looks like. No, this is all the cap holds. So they have all these cap holds on the books. Yeah, they're already very far ahead. So they're probably going to be trading Durant, which would help decrease a lot of things. But at the same time, though, like I just said, like if you're going to be trading Durant, you probably have to take back some money. So it's not like you're going to be able to just get rid of Durant completely and not take back any money. So I don't know how the hell they would be able to be in the Josh Giddey sweepstakes. Because again, if they wanted to get Josh Giddey, they'd have to sign and trade for him. And if you sign and trade for a guy, you are hard kept to the first apron, and they're already way past the first apron. So it's kind of hard for them to even have a possibility of doing such a thing. So I don't really think it's to be possible. I get Isaiah. I just think he might look worse than it is stat line wise. Well, I think Isaiah is one of those guys that you don't really look at the stat line for what his impact is. Like he's a very, very good center. But I get it. Does Memphis have anyone other than Santi to sign this offseason? So yeah, Memphis, they actually have a lot of things to go and do. So the reason why they traded Marcus Smart, by the way, was because they needed to make sure that they have money to sign some guys. Sorry, I was in the right spot. Sorry. So I had to figure this out, but they have to re-sign somebody. And I guess it was just Senti, but I think the other things that they were thinking about was just the increase in money for some of these guys, and I guess that's not that big of a deal. I forgot Jaren Jackson Jr.'s contract goes down. I don't know if they want to really bring back Luke Kennard, but I guess that's a thing. But they also did it just to make sure they have some sort of flexibility, because again, middle exception to use. So Memphis will never be a tax team either, because they just never have been. So them trading Marcus Smart honestly might have just been like, okay, we just need to make sure we can have some room for a mid-level exception guy. So I don't know, honestly. Yeah, it might just be Senti and then Marvin Bagley and then Luke Kennard, which is kind of odd. Jaw's contract and Desmond Bane's contract goes up, but it's overall decreases in the projected cap space. Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I'll have to kind of look into it. They might also be kind of setting up for a bigger move. But I mean, I think they'll probably really look to bring Santi Aldama back. So I guess they're likely not signing back to offer Aldama what he's needed. Probably, if I had to make a guess, that would probably be what they do, because I mean, you have Zach Edey now. What do you think they could get for Durant? Wonder what Durant to Miami trade would look like. Oh boy. I don't. Does Miami have their picks? I don't know if Miami has their picks right now. Yeah, I honestly don't know what Phoenix could get for Durant right now, because the problem is with for Phoenix, it's like, yes, you're trading Kevin Durant, but also you have to follow all these trade rules and such, and it's just like, oh boy, this is gonna be hell. And it's, by the way, it's not necessarily about Phoenix having to match up everything. It's about the fact that there's trade rules now for the other team, and Durant's contract's so large that it's just like, God, I don't. It's hard to move that money. Yeah, I guess they sort of have their picks. I mean, you give this pick. I guess like if you're gonna do this, it's like whoever you pick with this pick, you just trade that player to the Suns. But you don't sign him to the rookie deal. You then trade that player to the Suns. You then can can't trade this pick, so you'll trade your 2028 and 2030 picks. I guess at that point you'd be able to trade your 2032 pick as well. So I guess it'd be that, and then the money, it would be Duncan Robinson and Terry Rozier, maybe something like that. I'm sure the Suns wouldn't be thrilled with it, but that's kind of the problem with this whole new CBA. Who's your MVP right now, Duncan? For out west, it's Shea. For out east, it's honestly, I really don't even know, honestly. It's kind of crazy, but I want to say Giannis. I think a lot of people just kind of forgot how good Giannis is. Unfortunately for Cleveland, as good as they've been, the problem is that it's just such a team. Like, it's just so team-oriented. Like, you know, Donovan Mitchell isn't putting up, like, that amazing overall stats, but obviously he's still, like, you know, all-star level. But it's, like, it's not MVP level. Boston, I mean, you can argue about Tatum, but, I mean, that team is just still so stacked that it's just, like, and then New York, I mean, Brunson is a pretty good overall, you know, player. He just got injured, unfortunately, but even then, I wouldn't give it to him. So I personally would just give it to Giannis. At least in my opinion. I know he hasn't really, like, the Bucks have had a very weird season, but they've done enough, at least in my opinion, to warrant the vote. Shea, at least for me right now, is the MVP just because of just like people are going to be talking about, you know, he isn't like averaging the triple double that Jokic is, but Shea's numbers in terms of his overall efficiency and stats, bro, it's just like, bro, like Shea's scoring is insane this year, and that's and we already knew that Shea was such an insane scorer already. So I personally, for now, just because of how well the Thunder have played, also the Chet Holmgren injury kind of does also help Shea's case of being like, well, I mean, you're missing your starting center all season long, or for a good portion of the season, so you had less help and you were still doing this well, and having this Thunder team, you know, 10 games above the rest of the West. So at least in my opinion, it's Shea. I do think Jokic is right there. Jokic, I mean, that 30-20-20 game is insane. And he's averaging triple-double, but it's just like, right now, for me, it's at least Shea. But it's not to take anything away from Jokic. Unfortunately, we can't move Shea out east. I wish we could, because then we could give Jokic that 4th MVP, as he absolutely deserves. But it's kind of hard right now. But, you know, we still have March and April left to go. Who are you guys' MVPs right now? I want to know. Shea's MVP. Tim killed it today. I think he is my East MVP. Okay, yeah. Any player that helps the Lakers get it pushed by me if they try, even they play for the Celtics. Sure, yeah. But we'll go with that. MVP really is SGA versus Jokic this season. It definitely is. Yeah. They're both just big. They're just both so insane right now. It's incredible to watch. Not that others are not playing amazing, but those two are definitely their own impressive lines in different ways. Yeah. SGA outscoring the league in only 3 quarters is pretty cool market. It's just crazy, bro. And SGA even rested the other night against Portland, and like I'm pretty sure he's still outscoring the rest of the league in just 3 quarters. Do you agree with Barkley that the media is talking too much about Lakers / Golden State, not enough about OKC and Cavs? Darius, I 1,000,000% agree. And it's not just about the Lakers / Golden State, but also about LeBron / Jordan, and ESPN's just become a shit show. I'm sorry. But here's the thing, though. The funny thing to me is just that Barkley saying that, he's part of the problem, okay? Barkley is part of the problem. The NBA TNT crew is part of the problem, okay? So it's like, it's funny that Barkley said that, because I'm just like, well, my biggest gripe about NBA, inside the NBA this year, is just that they seem to only care about the Lakers, Warriors, the Celtics, and the New York Knicks. Like, that's all they talk about, bro. I talked about this earlier in the year, but like Barkley, when the Houston Rockets were the 2 seed and they're about to face the Golden State Warriors in a in-season tournament game, all Barkley said about the Houston Rockets, just like, the Houston Rockets don't know how to really play basketball. It's not that impressive what they've been doing. They're too young. They don't know how to win yet. And what happened? Houston went on to win the game in a pretty thrilling over. It was like a very close game at the end. Like, that's to me the problem. Like, it's funny that Barkley said that he's right about what he's saying, that ESPN and, you know, especially guys like Stephen A, Kendrick Perkins, and etc. on all their shows, they're garbage. All the you know, the jump, even if that is still a thing right now, I don't even know if it is. I think it is, but that's a garbage show. I think Stephen A is a garbage analyst right now. Kendrick Perkins is a flat-out idiot. And ESPN knows, though, that they have to play to the ratings, because if you go and talk about the Cavs, like, no one's gonna watch. So yeah, I completely agree. But at the same time, I think inside the NBA has been just as bad. Inside the NBA, all Shaq talks about is Steph Curry. All Shaq talks about is, LeBron and the Lakers and, the best team, the best overall, like, best players, et cetera, et cetera. Like, they don't talk about the smaller market teams and how well they're playing. They just don't do a good enough job, at least in my opinion. Barkley and Shaq, in my opinion at least, are the two biggest haters in the media right now for the current NBA. So yeah, it's funny that Barkley called out ESPN, but at the same time, Barkley is part of the problem. And so I don't really know what exactly the plan is for inside the NBA for next season. Like, I know that this, like, ESPN and everything, but I am just praying to God that this NBC crew is gonna just be awesome. Like, they've got Dirk. I just hope that NBC crew is gonna be great, and they're gonna go out there and really show the rest of the league why the other players in the league besides LeBron James and Stephen Curry are awesome. Just a reminder about last season, okay? Shaq last season, when Jokic was announced as the MVP and had an interview with Inside the NBA, Shaq, his first thing he said to Nikola Jokic was not congratulations. He said, Nikola Jokic, I sincerely do think that you had a great season overall, but I really do think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander deserved the MVP this season. What do you have to say about that? Like, bro, I'm sorry. That's awful. Like, that's it. It's insanely bad. Shaq cannot say that. That's being unprofessional, but also it's downplaying the best player in the league that season. Like, that's insane to me. So I think inside the NBA, as much as people have loved them, I've loved them over the years. I think they have become part of the problem too. I think Shaq and Chuck specifically have been a problem. Kenny is not exactly the brightest either in terms of being a good analyst and talking about the rest of the league, but at least he tries. But I'm really hoping that this NBC crew that's going to be coming up here is going to do the correct stuff and really hype up the rest of the league and hype up certain matchups and hype up other players. Like, I don't think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as good as he's been this season, I don't think he's even getting enough hype for how well he's played. Because if this was LeBron James having this type of season, we would not hear the end of it. So I really think that the rest of the NBA media has been garbage in terms of mainstream media. I think that the media for the smaller media stuff, like the people, the actual beat reporters, the people that run the podcasts, the people that do the YouTube channels and go and make articles every single day. I think they've actually done a really good job of covering the NBA this year. But unfortunately, they don't have the biggest platform because all the money is being sent into the TV deals, which makes sense for the NBA. So I really have some big overall problems with how the NBA has covered them this year. Sorry to get people who feel like the league forced Luka to Lakers/Jimmy to Warriors just to focus on their two pet teams. Oh, I mean, I think it's an honestly valid conspiracy theory. That is just like, well, we weren't talking about the Lakers enough, so to boost ratings, we gotta put Luka on the Lakers, and we'll pay Nico Harrison $1 billion or something like that. Like, yeah, sure. Looking between Jokic and SGA for it, yeah, close enough to the end of the season decides. I definitely think it's gonna be end of the season gonna decide it. But yeah, I love seeing OKC win when people say they don't have serious mentality, etc. They're too nice. I feel being nice doesn't ruin your ability to win. Oh, first and foremost, I disagree that they're too nice, but they're definitely set up much better this season to win. Just being competitive, you need to show which shows different ways. Yeah. MVP complains about not having young faces at the league and then refuses to talk about them if they're in similar markets. Oh, I mean, bro, like, we have so many awesome young players right now, and it's just like, yeah, we're not going to talk about it. We got to make sure we milk LeBron and Steph Curry's career because that's the most important thing we got to do. Which, I get it, they're the biggest stars right now, but at the same time, LeBron's 40 and Steph's 37. Like, we can move on. Now, granted, the Lakers have been a lot better recently, so now it's like, you know, you have a legit reason why to talk about the Lakers. But you know, the Warriors, I mean, they've also been better recently, but right now they're not title contenders. So, hope OKC makes the finals, as I don't see other teams upsetting Boston or Cleveland if those make it in a series. Yeah, the only other team I can see upsetting them is Milwaukee, just because they have the best player in some of those series, right? I think Milwaukee, you could argue, has the best player against Cleveland, but I would also probably right now choose Cleveland. I have no faith in the Knicks. I've already said this on stream. I have no faith in the Knicks doing anything in the playoffs right now. I might, of course, be wrong about this, but I genuinely have no faith in the Knicks. I know Brunson's injured, but, like, you know, forget that for now. But, like, you know, the Knicks, if they face the Pistons, like, I could see an upset, honestly. I would not be shocked. Duncan Chuck loves stuff, though. I think it's okay to talk about your favorite player. Yeah, it's okay to talk about your favorite player. But at the same time, if you're going to complain about the rest of the NBA media not covering enough about the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers, then you have no right to also then say, oh, the NBA's not doing this, but you don't do it enough either. That's my only thing. If you're going to be calling out other medias, then you also have to do the proper thing and show what you should be doing instead. They don't do that, though. They pick and choose who they love and who they hate. And they always were like, no, we decide that we're not going to talk about this because we think that player is bad when they're probably pretty good at the end of the day. So I do see plenty of threats out west that could take out OKC on the way, depending on who lands where. It gets bad back-to-back matchups to burn their teams down in postseason. I won't lie, if the Lakers, like, I mean, the West is going to be so interesting to watch because, like, this changes constantly. But, like, if let's say the Lakers are like the 4 seed and they face the Thunder, like, the Thunder should still win that, but, like, Luka is just that guy. Like, I would argue it's almost a similar situation as last season where, you know, the Mavericks, you know, don't have home court. Thunder are the best team all season long in the West, have home court. It's kind of just Luka, Kyrie, and friends, and Luka just still kind of pushed their way through. So that's just kind of my only thing with the Thunder. I'm just kind of concerned that it's just like, if you just happen to run into that one guy, it's like, okay, woof. Like, I have full faith they'll beat Houston. I have full faith they'll beat Memphis. But if you face Denver or the Lakers at any point early, like, that's kind of the biggest concern, at least in my opinion. 30 Lakers and Golden State alone are even scary, or ever scary, even if not biggest threats. Not worried about Memphis. Yeah, I agree. It's the guys that have the superstars that just could take over a series that you're like, oh god. I love inside the NBA, but they aren't really analysts. They are just ex-players / fans first. Right, I agree. But if you're gonna call other analysts and claim you're better analysts, then you have no right to be saying, oh, but we're just fans, though. I'm more mad at the other dudes who frame themselves as analysts. I mean, yeah, I think Stephen A., Kendrick Perkins, you know, whoever else you want to put in the NBA, because I don't even watch ESPN anymore. I used to watch it constantly. I just don't even do it anymore. Yeah, those guys aren't analysts at all. They're awful. I think Palo to be modern, he's a balancing statistical dude that can actually go to analytics direction and not just old head previous players. Just need one of those on a panel that can counter. Well, yeah, I would rather have players that were just recently in the game. Like, Shaq and Chuck never played in this sort of NBA style. They just never did. So, you know, I don't always want to just be like, oh, it's sad this player retired, so give him a job. But, like, obviously Dirk is a great fit. Like, he's a perfect sort of guy where he, you know, more recently retired, and he understands this sort of new NBA style. Like, that makes a lot of sense. So go get those sort of guys. You know, I would love, you know, Jamal Crawford, for example. Like, go get him. It needs a mix. Yeah, but I just think that, like, just like someone like me, which I don't know, you know, consider me an analyst with a grain of salt if you want. But, like, I love the NBA. I'm a major fan of the NBA, but I'm also like the biggest analyzer for the Bulls right now. Like, it's fine. You can be both, right? Only dire NBA fans will see it this way, but I think every NBA team has at least at one minimum or two players worth watching, even lottery teams. Oh, I agree. Like, even the Washington Wizards right now, bro, like, they may be the worst ever team, like, to watch right now, but I still think it's, you can convince me to watch them right now. I mean, I honestly think, you know, go ahead and just watch Alex Sarr. Jordan Poole is at least should be, you know, if he's on one, he's at least fun enough to watch, right? Like I think there's always reasons to watch. I know obviously there's some teams in worse situations than others, but I think there's always reasons to watch. I have more faith in the Hawks taking one of the top two in the East over Knicks upsetting them. Just need Johnson back for it. I don't know if I go that far, but I maybe see the Pistons. I don't know about the Hawks though. You see Dallas not playing now? Oh, for sure, with the Kyrie injury. I don't think Davis is coming back. I mean, they might honestly just kind of make it here, like just because the Phoenix is just bad enough, and Portland and the Spurs won't make it. If you're wondering about me, I am praying Portland makes the play-in just so that there's like a slim chance the Bulls get the pick this year from them, and like, you know, Portland somehow makes it as the 8th seed or something like that. That'd be awesome. And I know it's very slim chance, but I would love that personally. But yeah, I'm praying Portland makes the play-in, but I would at least hope Phoenix could make the play-in. But I see Phoenix easily pass them now. I don't know what the remaining schedule looks like though. I mean, you would think, right? Phoenix should pass them. I don't know at this point. Phoenix looks bad. Mavs running out of players is very possible. Also, morale has got to be destroyed in that locker room. Yeah, bro. I mean, they don't even have Jaden Hardy right now. Like, they just don't have anybody to play. Yeah, they're done. It's a matter of Davis is gonna come back, and I'm like, no shot Davis comes back. For sure, Darius Lee depth is high at the moment for that. Hence why, again, I think we definitely need expansion. But I do think that there is always a reason to watch kind of every team right now. So I'm trying my best. I mean, I can't always get to everything. Only half game. Does Vooch allegedly coming back soon help the Bulls lottery odds? Honestly, you might say you're only half correct. You might actually be correct. Because I do think that Zach Collins is sort of showing that, like, the rebounding numbers for Vooch are just not that impressive. Like, I'm sorry, it just isn't that impressive. I've said it pretty consistently from here on out. Like, with this specific team, with their play style and their current, you know, overall form as a team, with, you know, the lack of size besides the center position, you should be getting double-digit rebounds every game if you're playing 30 minutes easily. So I think that should kind of take away some of Vooch's impact. Not to mention, then Vooch is a worse defender than Collins is. Obviously, Vooch's, you know, defense is just so low that it's just bad. But the thing is that the one thing I'm just gonna point out to some people is just that when it comes to Vooch and his interior scoring, he's been obviously better than previous seasons. Okay. But right now, what Zach Collins is doing is basically what kind of Vooch is doing, but just at a less shots per game. Okay. You know, you're shooting over 50% from the field, and you're taking, you know, the interior shots that you should. Okay. So Zach Collins, since he's been with the Bulls, he's shooting basically 55% from the field, which is very, very, you know, it's very solid for a center. It's not very, very good. Like, there's obviously Jarrett Allen's in this league, but it's very solid. It's what a center should be doing. You should at least be shooting over 50% if you're mostly an interior center. And you should, you know, be getting up there in terms of your rebounds with this specific team. Vooch obviously shoots a lot more threes, but I've said it that if he doesn't shoot as many threes, then, like, I'm fine with him just shooting all the interior shots if he just makes them. The problem is that in recent seasons, he just hasn't made the interior shots. He's been pretty poor in the post. He's been really bad with hook shots, like, been bad at taking advantage of mismatches. So, is Vooch a better offensive player than Zach Collins? Yes. Is he a better rebounder than him? I don't know. I would argue not. He's definitely not better defensively, so kind of whatever you think, honestly, like whatever you value more. I won't be shocked if Vooch comes back and slows down the offense, and the offense looks a little bit worse, and it makes the team overall worse. So it might actually improve the Bulls' lottery odds because you're not running out in transition as often. So yeah, that's not. I hate being a hater for Vooch because, again, I was very happy when the Bulls traded for him, but then I quickly got a slap in the face about who he is as a player, and that's kind of been the story since. I think Vooch and Peel should out just the rest of the season. So it seems like Vooch is returning against Indiana next game. With Patrick, I know you just got some shots up. I would personally send him out for the rest of the season, and if he needs to get a surgery, then go get it now. But yeah. My lap, I always love me a Steven Adams on a Ventman contract too, even over Vooch. He's just a lovable player, and the box out. Offensive rebounding is mad fun, even if he's slow for the pace and old. I mean, also, Steven Adams' screens are just some of the best in the league. Like, you know, with Steven Adams, you're getting probably a double-double as well with him. He just obviously isn't going to be shooting on the perimeter, which I always find it fun because Steven Adams made that 1-3 like in a preseason game. It was like the first shot of the game, and he made it. It was just like, oh my god, what the hell? Yeah, obviously this season coming off the bench, but I mean, yeah, like before his injury, bro, like, yeah, it's 10 and 9, right? Obviously not the best defense in the world, but like, yeah, you would take the offensive rebounding, which is an insane number to look at. We can have more centers, but I want, even though all the weaknesses for fun to watch, yeah, it'd be interesting, bro. Because again, I really think that Vooch, if we can get him off for just anything, right, it's a good thing. So then, yeah, maybe you could go and sign a center. That's something I like about Zach over Vooch. We haven't talked about. Vooch's screens are lazy, and Zach has had some dirty screens. I also love the fact with Zach Collins, he understands when to slip, right? Like, there are moments with Zach Collins where it's like you think he's about to set like a hard screen, and he just slips it, right? And it catches the defense off guard. Like, Vooch just doesn't have the mobility to do such a thing that's effective enough to be like, oh, wow, that was a slip screen. Like, we didn't expect that. Like, yeah, I agree. Adams does have a great long passes off rebounds with pace pushing, though, in his defense. Oh, for sure. Yeah, Steven Adams has a great quarterback arm, if you want to call it that. Outlet passes. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all checking in on the stream tonight. Thank you guys all for hitting the like button. We have 9 likes, so if you have not already hit the like button on the stream, please do. It helps me out a lot. We had over 50 people checking on the stream. Individual times people checking on the stream. So thank you so much. Sincerely do appreciate it. Next game for the Bulls is gonna be Monday. Should be able to stream after this one, so plan on 9:30 p.m. Central Time. Post game. Bulls take on the Indiana Pacers. Obviously, the Bulls face the Pacers in Indiana. Their last time they met. You know, not exactly the best game for the Bulls, but you know, they sort of kept in it, right? Let's see here. Yeah. So, biggest thing for me is just kind of see how the defense looks. Again, not expecting great defense, but like you need to play better defense than the start of this Miami game. Pacers also, you know, they're pretty good at getting in the interior against the Bulls. So you gotta try to figure out a way to kind of limit that a little bit. So see how this one goes. Buzelis has to face Pascal Siakam again. Interesting just to keep an eye on that. And then obviously keep an eye on Kobe and Giddey, because Giddey had, I think, the best game as a Bull tonight. Kobe, you know, had a 44-point out. He didn't have the best game tonight, but he kind of figured it out. So those are your two guys in offense right now until Vooch gets back. So we'll see. We'll see if Vooch plays in this one and how the rotation looks after that. I won't lie, I'm concerned about Lonzo right now. Someone, I don't remember who tweeted this, but it might have been the UK Bulls Twitter account, but Lonzo, this is the reason why I'm concerned, but ironically, he has only played 35 games this season, which is the same number he played in the season prior, before he got injured. So like, hence why I was really concerned about giving him that extension. So like, if you could get a first round pick for Lonzo, you trade him, which I'm shocked the Bulls didn't do that. But is there a world where Lonzo just doesn't come back this season and he just only plays 35 games a season, where it's a very effective 35, even if he's coming off the bench or starting? I don't care. But it's just like, is he just cursed? Like, he hasn't played, and he's only played in 35 games this season, and he might just be out for the rest of the season. Like, it shouldn't be that way, but like, I'm just so worried it's gonna be like that cursed, where Lonzo only plays 35 games per season with the Bulls. Like, and then next season when it's about to be, you know, past 35 games, he gets traded. So he only play 35 games next season or something like that. So I don't know, bro. Someone pointed that out to me, and I was just like, oh my god, that's funny as hell. Funny in a bad way. Like, it's not good. Like, I don't want Lonzo to only be playing 35 games per season with the Bulls, but it's something just to point out, because it's just like, god, that'd be ridiculously bad if Lonzo can only play 35 games this season. And I'm talking about for a future season, excuse me, because the new contract. But obviously this year it's just all about him just coming back and, you know, playing in the first place. It's insane that he came back and played. So 35 games when I expected no games is awesome. It's just for the future outlook, it's just like, god, man, like, this guy really is just, he might just be really made of glass. Like, it's not even the knee this time, it's just the fact that he's just injured. So I hope this wrist injury gets figured out, but it's kind of taking a lot longer than I thought it would, and that's when I get concerned, because it's like, he just kind of just randomly kind of was out a game, and I'm like, okay, you know, it is what it is against Indiana, and then it's now turned into 3 games, so I'm like, okay, where are we really with this injury? Is it actually serious, or is it really just day-to-day, and we're just being cautious with it? I'm hoping for the cautious side, and it's fine, but yikes, bro. This is just when I really start doubting the Bulls medical staff, and it's like, oh, he actually needs season-ending surgery, because the Bulls medical staff is garbage. So that's all my concern. I'm just pointing that out, because I hope that he plays soon, but I doubt it. We'll see, though. Pacers versus pace-setting Bulls. Yeah. I mean, I think he could play if the games matter. Same with Vooch. I don't know, honestly. It seems like that this Vooch injury actually is a little bit more serious than I thought it was initially. The thing with Lonzo, like, if let's say Lonzo was out with just like back soreness or something, I would agree with you. But it's the fact that it's his wrist, and it's the same wrist that he hurt earlier in the season. That's my only concern, because they were just like, oh, that's because, like, they talked about if he re-injured that same wrist, he would have had to have season-ending surgery. That's just my only concern about it. It's just like, well, is it the same? It's the same wrist. Is it in the same spot? Like, that's just my big thing about it. I mean, I don't really know. If they're just keeping him out, fine, awesome. I feel a lot better about that. But yeah, Vooch plays through everything. No, he's been out with the calf strain for this long. Well, that's what I also thought as well. But then, like, he's actually just been out this long. Like, Vooch usually takes pride in, like, you know, playing games. Like, I don't know if you'd be able to convince the team to sit out this, or be able to be convinced to sit out this long, but who knows? All right. But either way, though, we'll see who's available in this one, and we'll see who plays. Pacers obviously need to keep winning these games, and hopefully it'll be a fun one. So I'll see you guys at 9:30 p.m. on Monday. Appreciate y'all checking out the stream. Appreciate everything this season. Thank you for dealing with my overall health issues recently. I'm feeling a little bit better, so hopefully I'll be able to keep trucking along here. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a good night. I'll see y'all Monday. Peace.